Yes, you have.
Yes. Yeah. Good afternoon. Yeah, can you please just give me a minute? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Before that, can you just tell me if you're able to see me navigate through the slides? Yeah. Yeah. Is that better now? Yes. Yeah. I've made it full screen. I just want to get the feedback if I'm able to. You're able to see me navigate through the slides. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, Given the time limit, yeah, I'll just try to keep my presentation extremely short. The paper that I'm going to present is the textual analysis of A.K. Ramanujan's Of Mothers, among other things. And I'm going to look at this as a discourse situation. So during the course of my presentation in the next few minutes, these are some topics that I would be covering. So, as you can see, this particular paper, the keyword of this particular paper is a textual analysis. So what really is textual analysis? It is a method that finds its roots in cognitive linguistics and very specifically in cognitive stylistics. So there are some major proponents of cognitive stylistics, cognitive linguistics. namely Peter Stockwell, Ruben Sear, etc. There are many more people who are still working in this area. So now textual analysis is one methodology, one method that is used to study text, literary text from a cognitive linguistic perspective. So this is the approach that I'm bringing to my study in particular. So why am I doing this? This quote that you see on your screen right now explains this adequately, wherein Peter Stockwell differentiates between what are interpretations and what are readings. Now, interpretations are things that we are constantly making as we read literary texts. Not just literary texts, whether we read books, any kind of books, whether we read a magazine or a newspaper article or whatever it is, we are constantly making an interpretation. So even before we read a particular text, we read a set of words, we're already interpreting. And they may be having certain mistakes, errors, and all of them, which we kind of rectify as we read a particular text, and then we come across textual evidences which kind of disprove or prove our interpretations. So when we are able to come across the textual evidence, it's that process, then we can say that we have moved from interpretation to reading. Now, most of our literary studies, specifically that the literary studies that we do with respect to Indian writings in English, has sadly been limited to this kind of, the poet is trying to talk about his mother in the past. So he's seeing his mother in the present, and he's talking about her past. So they usually say that the poet is using a flashback technique in the poem, which is very, very perceivable. But how does this flashback itself, it's one thing to make just an observation, that's just an interpretation. How do we arrive at a reading? It is one thing to come to make an observation, and it's another thing to actually study that observation. And that's what cognitive linguistics helps in doing. And that's why I'm doing this textual analysis. So how am I doing this? How am I making this kind of an analysis? So if you ask me, am I coming up with a really new interpretation of the poem? No. But what am I doing in this paper? What I'm doing in this paper is taking an already existing interpretation of a poem and giving it a very linguistic and textual evidence. So the person's reading that I'm using to back my linguistic analysis is that of Anjali Nerlekar. So she's somebody who also told that Ramanujan falls back on the memories he had with his mother. So he's using a flashback technique. So now I'm kind of supporting whatever she said about this text using textual analysis. And specifically, I'm using textual theory with deictic shift. Now, these two are very, very interlinked things. One is textual theory, has to do with these three critics. So when we do a textual analysis, we divide the poem into the discourse world as in we readers who are reading the poem, and those who are actually, and the poetic voice, who is a speaker in the lines of the poem. And then the further level of division happens when I get into the text world of the poem and see how the poet creates a world in the text. And then I go to the next level and look at how there's a subworld that is created. And it is in this subworld that the poetic voice, the speaker, is talking about the mother. So that is like, just for a cursory reading, that's the poem for you. So this is the outline of how the analysis is going to be. So I've broken down the poem into discourse world. So if you see the discourse world, it's me, the reader, who gets into the poetic consciousness of the poet. So when the word I comes in the poem, that is in the previous slide, that I is the poetic voice, not necessarily A.K. Ramanujan, but the speaker in the lines. So then there's a perceptual shift happening. So I stop looking at the poem as me, the reader, and I try to project myself into the voice of the speaker. That's called the deictic projection. That's why it's also called the deictic shift theory. And that's where it's the discourse world. That is where the poem is discussed as a discourse world. The next thing is text world. So as I go deeper into the poem, as a reader and as the poetic voice, I'm looking at various metaphors, and I try to find out which metaphor relates to whom. Who is this metaphor being? Because very specifically in this poem, the first metaphor we come across is the twisted blackbone tree. While very often people read interpretations of the poem and say the twisted blackbone tree is the mother. But how do we get proof that the twisted blackbone tree is a mother? It could be anything else. So an analysis as this helps us understand how the words she, I, and all of that connect. You form a relationship, and then you understand what the metaphor stands for. Okay, through the spatial shifts and temporal shifts. So going further in the poem, there's a subworld that happens, the subworld that is created, and it is in this subworld that we see the mother. It's not in the text world of the poet. The poet is speaking from the present. So he's painting a picture of his mother's past. So the mother is existing in front of him as an old lady, and he's also looking at his mother as a young lady. But as a young lady, but when he sees her as a young lady, he's not seeing him parallelly as a younger boy. So it's not really completely a flashback technique. So what happens in a flashback technique, you also see yourself as a younger person, but that doesn't happen over here. So there's no really a perceptual shift over here. So one thing very special about this poem is that, yes, it uses flashback technique, but it's a flashback technique where it's just merely a juxtaposition of the past with the present. So this is the most important part of the paper, the discussion. So what happens? What is the point in doing a discussion like this? What are we arriving at? So if you see, our only understanding of the mother from the words of A.K. Ramanujan in the poem is that from the poetic voice. So if you see, there's constantly a discussion of the poetic voice talking about the difficulties that the mother has faced in the poem. But time and again, there is no real perceptual shift. What is a perceptual shift? At no point of time, the poetic voice changes from I to the I changing into the mother. The mother is never the speaker. So our understanding of the mother is constantly from the eyes of the poetic voice. So how much ever the poet is trying to make the mother speak, trying to bring to fore her difficulties, constantly she only remains in the subworld and not in the text world. So when that happens, it is also the kind of in not being able to achieve not able to achieve in giving the voice to the mother, Ramanujan also kind of wins in this poem, because that's what he's trying to say, of mothers among other things. So we often tend to take a mother for granted. She's just one thing among the other things that we see in our life, but that's not what it is. So when he's trying to do the same thing in the poem, there's at no point of time the mother is a speaker. She remains only in the subworld and never really into the text world. This is really the win of the poem. But there have also been people who criticize this poem for not really making the mother speak despite putting her difficulties. Wouldn't it have been better if the mother became the speaker and there was a perceptual shift? No. The poem really wins. It's to show that how much ever we try in our lives, somehow or the other we tend to take our mother for granted. Okay, so that's the win of the poem, in not enabling the mother to get into the text world and still in the subworld. Ramanujan is able to highlight how this is not just the condition of his mother, but of all the other mothers. That's why of mothers and not of mother, among other things. So yes, and despite his persistent efforts, the mother remains a subaltern here. And that's what is Anjali Nelakar's view of this particular poem. And in doing a textual analysis, that's what I've been able to try and prove about what Anjali Nelakar herself has told about the poem. So that's and in a way, I would say that this analysis is kind of answered the research question quite effectively, because there is definitely, we are coming at an objective conclusion, objective way of looking at the reading and interpretation that was already made. You're arriving at it aesthetically. How aesthetically you will understand only if you do the analysis yourself and probably read the analysis, but also a very systematic way. There is a very systematic way of coming at this analysis. So all the three ways have been we have looked at the analysis in all the three ways: aesthetically, systematically, and objectively. So I would say this paper this is just one reading. The future scope for research is that you can arrive at a lot of other readings through the same systematic analysis. So that's, this paper is just to open avenues to such a kind of very systematic way of looking at literature and therefore doing literary linguistics. So now these are some sources I thought would actually be useful if I kind of showed you. These are works that I've used to do this analysis. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your patience listening. I'm also willing to take any questions if there are any. Okay, so if you talk about the poem itself, there is a real continuity. There is the punctuation. When you talk, there are different points of time that the poet is trying to talk about. He's talking about the mother's youth. He's talking about the mother's old age. So if you talk about the punctuation, there is no real full stop until the last sentence of last line of the poem. So this kind of shows the punctuation, the way the poem has been punctuated, kind of shows how the flashback is a very continuous process. You cannot say if he's first talking about the past or he's talking about the present. There are things which are happening simultaneously in the poet's present. So it's only there's only a use of comma or enjumpments, wherein he's thinking about the past and then suddenly he's brought to, like, rudely brought into the present of the mother. So the lines are not complete in its sense. They're like there are enjumpments, and the full stop is only when the poem really ends. So that way, that also helped me in my analysis of this particular poem, in building the text world. So that's one thing. And imagery, yes, there is mostly visual imagery in the poem. Not really a lot of auditory imagery, but it's this visual imagery which helps us establish that the metaphors that he's using for his mother are very age-oriented. So when he says black bone tree, he's talking about and he's also contrasting it with the silk white petal of her youth. So all of this kind of shows how she was and how she is, and what she was from the perception of the poetic voice who was probably in his boyhood. So that way, the visual imagery helps in understanding the metaphors better and helps us in understanding the referent of the metaphor. So that's the most important. These two are also very important things. So thanks for that question, ma'am. Any other questions? Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. Can you give me some time? I'll present my screen. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes, can you see my screen? Are you able to see this slide, the title slide? Okay, just a minute. Yeah, give me a minute. Yeah, can you see the title screen now? Yeah. So my topic for today would be meandering through the web of illusion, an Indian reading of Bruno's Dream. So Bruno's Dream is one of the important novels of Iris Murdoch. She was a British novelist come philosopher. And to keep it short, she was born in, though she was born in Ireland, she was by nature, she did her schooling and college, everything in London, and she spent most of her years in London. And she was one of her very good friends was Srimati Indira Gandhi, and she was influenced by some of the important philosophers like Plato, Simon Weil, Immanuel Kant, Sartre, and Wittgenstein. And she later influenced many philosophers and writers like Anscombe, Philippa Foot, Ian McEwan, and J.D. Smith. And throughout her career, she had written 26 novels and 5 philosophical works, and she died due to Alzheimer's on 8th February 1999. My reading is an Indian reading of Iris Murdoch because she was very much influenced by Indian texts and philosophy. She started reading Indian philosophy mainly because of Schopenhauer. She was also much interested in the Vedas and Upanishads. So that's what led me to see what could be the Indian influences in her novels and other works. And after doing a lit review, I did find that there is a kind of literary gap because many have studied Iris Murdoch from a Buddhist perspective, but not from the Hinduist perspective. So now coming to the concept of illusion, that is, the topic for today. In her interview with Jeffrey Mayers, she says that most of her novels start in much the same way, with 2 or 3 people in a relationship with a problem. Then there is a story, ordeals, conflicts, and a movement from illusion to reality. So if you see, most of her novels deal with moving from what we call illusion or Maya towards understanding, and that is the reality. And in another philosophical work of hers, The Sovereignty of Good, she says the chief enemy of excellence in morality is personal fantasy, the tissue of self-aggrandizing and consoling wishes and dreams, which prevents one from seeing what is there outside one. So this is very close to what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So if we all remember when he talks about the Jnana Yoga, he says that when you understand what is the true knowledge, when you come to an understanding of what is true knowledge, then you can dispel ignorance and you see what is real. So in this particular novel, you have the protagonist Bruno, and he is the resentfully still center of the book. He's the aged and dying Bruno. He's on his deathbed. So the setting is his deathbed, and the timeline is, it talks about when he is like dying and he's unable to, he's filled with regrets. He suffers from fears, frustration, and indignities of old age. He has a lot of pains, guilt, regrets, and boredom, and he has become physically repulsive. So what now is what connects me to the concept of illusion or Maya is that illusion is always looked at as a negative concept or word even in the Indian context. Very few people realize that it could be something positive. That's what we call as Bhavarupa in Sanskrit. So when Bruno looks at his life on his deathbed, in retrospect, he sees illusion as a very positive aspect. That's because he starts recollecting the multitude of experience that he had throughout his life. He begins to realize what he had done to his wife, how he had ill-treated his son, how he had ill-treated his daughter-in-law. So these experiences are nothing but an authenticated wisdom of a life lived. Even the other characters get means to learn a lot from Bruno, because he's the one, though he is on with a lot of regrets on his deathbed, he has a lot to teach for the other characters. And he finally comes to an understanding which makes him realize that he has lived a life lived in illusion, because he understands that it's too late now and he cannot do anything about it. But yes, there is a kind of realization at least that he has achieved on his deathbed. And Bruno Greensleeve is a protagonist whom I'm talking about. And what can be compared to the Indian context is that, he is one of the character who is not able to discriminate between what is real and not real. So that's what we call as the Sat and Asat in the Indian context. And he is deluded by the appearance of the physical reality. So by the time he is on his deathbed, he understands that this is what was his mistake. And he is deceived by his attachment, sometimes towards his wife and his lovers, and he has a lot of other people whom he has cheated on. So he's deceived by his attachments, desires, and aversions, and he mistakes his ego to be the real one. So this kind of realization which he has achieved on his deathbed is kind of what makes him a realized soul. And one of the most important things why he could be considered as on the path of realization, not though a fully realized soul, is because Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the self is eternal and indivisible, and the body is worthless and transient, is not difficult to comprehend, as is the truth. And this is exactly what Bruno does in the novel, is what he is able to comprehend on his deathbed. In the novel, Bruno is able to come to terms with the ephemerality of life when he acknowledges the truth and says, death refutes induction. So he is able to understand the very concept that, life itself is transient and there is much more beyond life. Bruno's transformation also can be seen in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says, once you gain spiritual wisdom, you will never be deluded or confused. This is exactly what could be said of Bruno, because this kind of understanding or knowledge that he is able to gain while he is on his deathbed is important, and what makes him realize is that life is transient. This is so similar to I have after I had read the philosophy of Iris Murdoch, I also realized that she was a philosopher who was very much influenced by Jiddu Krishnamurti, a very eminent Indian philosopher. So Jiddu Krishnamurti says each of us has an image of what we think we are or what we should be. This prevents us from seeing ourselves as we are, because we already have a preconceived notion of how we are supposed to be, or sometimes even how we expect others to be. So this is what prevents us from seeing the reality. So exactly as I mentioned before, it is only on his deathbed Bruno reconciles with his past, accepts his mistakes, sometimes which he had done knowingly or sometimes unknowingly. And the very important point about Bruno is that his complete attention, the entire novel is, Iris Murdoch has made it in such a way that the entire novel is on his deathbed. So he starts to think about what he has done to people and how he could probably rectify them, and then he realizes that life once lived is a dream. So you cannot live it again. It's over. Like once you get up, you had a dream, you get up, it's over. Even if you want to sleep back and go back to the dream, it's not possible, right? So that's an understanding that Bruno comes to. Bruno's complete attention in retrospect helps him understand the ephemerality of life lived as a dream. And that's when he says in the novel, there is just the dream, its texture, its essence, and in our last things we subsist only in the dream of another, a shade within a shade, fading, fading, fading. So this kind of realization on his part is very important, because it helps him and the other characters understand what life is all about, the transient nature of life, accepting the reality of death. So each of us have to understand, all of us feel, we are in total grief when somebody passes away. We are in, we are not able to come out of it. But even though we are all aware that, we are born to die one day, but we cannot accept the reality of death. So that's what causes the grief in each of us, right? So accepting the reality of death through knowledge, that's through right understanding, makes him a wise and a humble person. He says, if only one could believe that death was waking up. And the third thing was, Bruno understands that he cannot amend whatever has already been done in the novel. Like, he has already lived his life. There cannot be further changes done in his life. But the ultimate realization, that is, he has moved from what he was. He has lived a life in total illusion, but at least on his deathbed, he has moved to understanding the reality, not living a life of reality though. But I would say that he's a character who has understood what is real, though he has no time to live the reality, is what makes Bruno different from the other characters. Through his suffering on the deathbed, Bruno exemplifies how goodness is absolute over the other concepts. So that's the time when he starts behaving, very good towards all the people he has done bad to. So I'm sure you all understand that it cannot compensate, but whatever it is, he at least tries to understand that whatever he has done till now is a mistake. Dying Bruno thinks, I have lived my life in a dream and now it is too late to wake up. So we understand that the main concept of knowledge. So this entire thing is about right knowledge. So what we call, what Lord Krishna says is, when you have the right understanding and right knowledge, you are able to discriminate between what is real and what is unreal, what is illusion versus what is reality. So Bruno Greenslave is the protagonist who, through his right knowledge, has transcended the web of illusion. He has, that's what the topic says. He has meandered. So you don't get stuck in the web. You're not caught up in the web. You are able to navigate through, find your way out of this illusion, and he finds the path of self-realization. You cannot call him a self-realized soul because he hasn't achieved anything, but sincerely and humbly accepting the mistake, and understanding that what he has done till now is not the right thing, is showing the readers that he is on the path of self-realization. Thank you. Sorry, whose last wish? You mean Bruno's? So when he's on his deathbed, the last thing he says is that I wish I could have lived my life better. So, and he realizes that, but it's a mere dream. So that's what made me study this entire novel, making him, like, understanding him as a realized soul. We cannot compare him to our Indian philosophy where we talk about realization, but yes, that's why I said he has stepped onto the path of self-realization. He has nowhere treaded it. He has nowhere achieved anything, but he has at least understood what is right and what is wrong. So
Yes, we are there. We are there. 872.
Can you see the slides? Okay, full screen. Yes. Good afternoon. The topic of our presentation today is recovery time in tin oxide functionalized carbon nanotube gas sensors for nitrogen dioxide gas. This work has been done by my colleague Dr. Seema Gupta, Mr. Ankur Anand, Ms. Nehru, and myself, Rashna Kumar. We are from Department of Physics, Kalindi College, University of Delhi. Some background of our this present study is that we have worked earlier on tin oxide functionalization and found out that this leads to change in the chemical nature of CNTs and increase their sensing performance by formation of nano heterojunctions. And also there is improvement in the absorption amount of targeted gases. We have studied here nitrogen dioxide since it is very hazardous to their living beings and causes respiratory tract diseases. In the present work, carbon nanotube gas sensors have been functionalized with varying concentration of SnO2. The samples were then characterized for structural properties by XRD and SEM. The response of the sensor was noted in the form of change in resistance on exposure to different concentration of nitrogen dioxide gas. Recovery time was calculated experimentally, which is taken as the time taken by the sensor to return to its initial state after stopping the exposure of the gas, and value of absorption energy was estimated. This is the flowchart for the experimental setup which we have used. This work was done in collaboration with Solid State Physics Laboratory DRDU in the nanotechnology group. Experimentally, the powdered form of SWNT were purchased from the Carbon Solutions USA. They were dispersed in dimethyl formamide and functionalization was done by chemical method. Tin oxide nanoparticles were prepared by reduction of tin chloride, and they were divided into 3 batches to which 0.1 milligram, 0.2 milligram and 1 milligram tin oxide was respectively added. After vacuum filtration, the obtained samples were annealed and they were then characterized by FE-SEM and X-ray diffraction. The gas sensors were kept in a closed gas chamber and nitrogen dioxide gas was targeted from 0.5 ppm to 20 ppm. Response time was kept fixed for 60 seconds and the recovery of for the fast recovery of the sample, a UV lamp was used. The response was noted in the form of resistance by fluke multimeter. This is the structural characterization. The left-hand side picture shows the XRD and the size of the nanocrystallized were of the range of 20 to 30 nanometers. And right side shows the FE-SAM image and of the tin oxide nanoparticles and functionalized CNT SNO2. So nitrogen gas has been targeted on pristine and step functionalized SNO2. The electron withdrawing nitrogen dioxide results in the decrease in the resistance of the sensor, and we have calculated the responsibility from the formula written here. R0 is the baseline resistance and R is the resistance of the sensor on exposure of the gas. Recovery time has been noted from the experimental data. This is the graph of gas concentration variation and percentage responsivity. You can see the red line is for the pristine, which is the bottom line minimum, and then we have increase for the best increase for the 0.1 milligram SWNT, functionalized SWNT, and the response for 0.2 and 1 milligram is lesser than that. From this onwards, our results will be discussed by my co-author, Dr. Seema Gupta.
Good afternoon. So I'm Dr. Seema Gupta. I will be telling you about the experimental values that we received for recovery time for pristine and SNO2 functionalized SWNT. So the table on the screen shows all the values in seconds for all the concentrations of the gas that we studied for pristine and for 0.1 mg functionalization, 0.2 mg functionalization and 1 mg functionalization with SNO2. The same thing is plotted on the graph. We can see that recovery time shows an increase as compared to pristine for 0.1 mg functionalization. However, they are showing a decrease for 0.2 and 1 mg functionalization. And we studied the comparison of percentage responsivity and recovery time for pristine and SLO2 functionalized carbon nanotubes on exposure to different concentrations of the gas. So here in the bar diagram, yellow bar shows the responsivity with respect to pristine, and recovery time shows the and the red bar diagram shows the recovery time with respect to pristine. So we have plotted the graphs for three representative concentrations. First is for 0.5 ppm of gas, second is 5 ppm of gas, and third one is the 20 ppm of NO2 gas. So what inference we draw from these graphs is that the relative value of percentage responsivity on functionalization is very high as for 0.1 mg SNO2. However, the increase is there, but it is lower for 0.2 mg functionalization and 1 mg functionalization. And when we compare the percentage change in recovery time, then we see that for 0.1 mg functionalization, recovery time increases. However, for 0.2 mg functionalization and 1 mg functionalization, recovery time decreases. Then we also estimated adsorption energy using the formula that is shown on the screen. Estimated values of the recovery of the adsorption energy comes out to be of the order of minus of 0.84 electron volt. Low value of adsorption energy points that adsorption in this case is a surface phenomenon. However, availability of active sites for adsorption, the positioning of energetically preferred vacant sites, surface orientation are many more factors which affect the adsorption process. So our results are that when we functionalize with 0.1 mg SNO2, the responsivity increases from 2.35 to 3.17 times the observed values for pristine. However, recovery time also shows an increase from 18% to 41%. And for 0.2 mg functionalization, responsivity shows an increase of 2.04 to 2.25 times that of pristine. However, there is an improvement of recovery time from 40% to 48%. Improvement means recovery time is decreasing. And for 1 mg functionalization, the observed increase in responsivity is 1.49 to 1.87 times values of pristine. However, recovery time shows a further improvement till 72%. So conclusion of our study are that higher responsivity obtained for 0.1 mg SNO2 functionalized SWNT and the lower recovery times in case of 0.2 mg SNO2 and 1 mg SNO2 functionalized SWNT make them a potential candidate to be used as gas sensor, stable at room temperature. And as per the device requirement, the functionalization can be suitably chosen. So these are references, and thank you.
What is the best sensor? Well, actually, our study is saying that we cannot say that anything preferable, because at one concentration we have increase of responsivity, while at other concentration there is increase of recovery time. So the device engineering will say that what is the choice. If you want a lower responsivity, then not so good responsivity, then you can choose different functionalization. If your choice is recovery time improvement, then it has to be different. So the device engineering will depend upon your parameter requirements for the experiment. So accordingly one can choose, because these are two contradictory results. I mean, in one thing is increasing, in another thing is increasing, that way. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you see the slide? Ma'am, can you see it now? So the topic, good afternoon all. Topic is random forest classifier with improved random walker segmentation for disease in the world. However, early diagnosis and treatment can save the life. So computer tomography is a method, imaging method for in the medical field. It is difficult for doctors to interpret and identify the cancer from CT scan images. The segmentation method proposing here to identify cancer is improved random walker segmentation along with random forest classifier. In this research, the experiments are performed on the lung image database consortium, which is a collection of CT images, is utilized as the input image to validate the performance of the proposed method. The most widely used method in medical image retrieval are test-based and image retrieval and content-based. Among these two methods, content-based image retrieval is best suited for medical image retrieval. There are multiple scanning techniques available for diagnosis of the lung cancer. The effectiveness of CBMIR depends mainly on the visible features chosen to represent the images. The commonly used features are texture, color, boundaries, etc. Texture plays a very important role in the processing of medical images. Accurate classification and retrieval of multimodal medical imaging data is the key challenges for the CBMIR system. So the main aim of CBMIR method is efficiently retrieve the images. The aim of the proposed system is to reduce the user intervention as well as to improve the accuracy. So these are the two images of CT scan. This left one is a normal lung image without any cancer, and right one is the chest with the right lung cancer. So there are different stages of lung cancer: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. Depends on the size, we can divide the stages. If the size is 3 centimeter or less, it will be in stage 1. If the size of the cancer is 5 centimeter and above, it will be in stage 2. If it is 7 centimeter, it will be stage 3, and 8 centimeter and above, stage 4. So survival rate also, if it is stage 1, 70%. If it is stage 2, 36%. If it is stage 3, less than, very less recovery, and stage 4, 0%, no recovery. So CBIR, the effectiveness of CBIR depends mainly on the visible features. So some examples. So these are the steps: input image, anisotropic diffusion filter, modified random walker algorithm, segmented image, feature extraction, then whether it is benign or malignant. The proposed method is to suggest a method to improve the performance of existing retrieval system by combining various image feature extraction processes. Modified random walker segmentation. The experiments are performed on the Lung Image Database Consortium, which is a collection of CT images, is utilized as the input images to validate the performance of the proposed method. Number of images of dataset comprises of 534. So the classifiers proposed for segmentation is random forest classifier. Basically, recognition process consists of 3 stages like filtering, segmentation, and feature extraction. The lung cancer images from dataset can be used as inputs, and maintaining these stages give more quality and accuracy in the detection of lung cancer. Classifiers are used to improve the accuracy of detection. The proposed methodologies are implementing for cancer detection in MATLAB 2018 software. So algorithm, random walk, segmentation, and image could be composed of a certain number of points and edges. It was assumed that an image could be mapped to a weighted graph. In improved random walk segmentation, build a Laplacian matrix to express the adjacency relation between nodes in an undirected graph by solving equations. These are the steps of algorithm random walker, and these are the steps for algorithm improved random walker. So classifier, a classifier is an algorithm that maps the input data to a specific category. Random forest classifier, the random forest is a classification algorithm consisting of many decision trees. Random forest is suitable for situations when we have a large data set and interpretability is not a major concern. So these are the images: benign image, morphological closing, fill holes, identified lung boundary.
As usual,
Cancer, different stages. Cancer is found in the lung, but it has not spread outside the lung is stage 1. Cancer is found in the lung and nearby lymph nodes, it's stage 2. Stage 3, cancer is in the lung and lymph nodes in the middle of the chest. And stage 4, cancer has spread to both lungs into the area around the lungs or in distant organs. So so after this process, we will get whether it is stage 1 or stage 2, benign or malignant like that. So this is for random walker, identified stages, and random walker improved. These are the different stages we got from random walker and improved random walker. Stage 2, stage 3, like that, different stages. And this is a confusion matrix for improved random walker with a random forest classifier. This represents the target and output classes. This is the comparison plot of accuracy with the 5 classifiers. And random walker segmentation, we got result as 99%, and improved random walker segmentation, we got 99.6%. In conclusion, to achieve the diagnostic result, image pre-processing and image classification are used in this study. The accuracy of the proposed method for lung cancer identification utilizing random forest classifier is 99.6%, which indicates the random forest classifier is giving high accuracy with the improved random walker for lung tumor identification. So these are the references. Thank you. area, centroid, convex area, eccentricity, perimeter, orientation, homogeneity, like entropy, energy, like that.
Yes, I'm here. 877. Oh, sorry. I'm 887. Sorry, I'm 887. Sorry.
I'm 881. I'm just trying to present. I think some issue is happening. Yeah, yeah. Just a second. Yeah, yeah. Just a second, ma'am. Thank you so much for considering it. Is it visible, ma'am? Yeah. Just wait a minute, ma'am. Just wait a minute. Yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present my paper. So I'm Priyanka Kaushik from Christ University, Bangalore, and my research topic is Rural Urban Perspectives of Teachers Regarding Online Learning in India. It's a digital ethnography study. So starting with introduction, digital divide has always been in the discussions and speculations for its economic, social, and political consequences. The notion of digital divide has been widely researched by the scholars, and existing study reveals that since when the COVID-19 pandemic has hit the world, online learning has taken the ma'am, actually, I'm outside the hospital, so maybe some issue is there. Just wait. I'll try it again. Yeah. So sorry, ma'am. It's just an emergency, and yeah. So yeah, coming with the methodology. So my study is totally qualitative in research. I have used ethnography as a tool. I was being participant in the online classes of higher education. So I have taken 6 universities in Delhi NCR, and for about 6 months I was being participant observation, and I was observing the change in the classroom structure of the online classes. So in-depth interviews were conducted with the faculty members and with the different teaching courses. So to have a broader understanding of the teachers regarding online learning. So I have taken interviews from different subject areas. So around 100 teachers belonging to different backgrounds and fields from various universities and colleges were asked to share their views on the online learning and what were the challenges they had faced. So all the data was recorded and they were supplemented by the notes of the researchers. So for future reference and analysis was hence done. So the objective of my research was to understand the behavioral changes and socialization of students and teachers during online learning, to understand the change in the relationship of teachers and students in online learning, to determine the role of digital gap in the online learning, and this research might help at the policy level in the future. So the findings of my research were many teachers, especially those who were working in the private educational institution, they raised the concern of being overburdened with the workload and the administrative duties which were added during online learning. This just left a little scope for teachers and students disclosures for the purpose of knowledge creation. Internet connectivity, of course, was one of the major issues. Government-run institutions, which were and the rural urban areas, they had some privilege of getting the training for a week so that they could understand to use the platform in a better way. Most the educators were using Google Classroom and Zoom platforms to impart the online education. teachers said that during online learning, they were more accountable. I mean, the management was keeping an eye on them, that what they are presenting, how they are speaking, and what gestures they're using. When you are there in the traditional classes, you are generally having a more, two-way communication. But here, it was just a one-way communication where the teacher's task was only to finish their syllabus, and they were bound, to have concern over their, whatever they are speaking, and everything was recorded. So they felt that they were more accountable. Although the teachers found that it was relatively easier to cover the syllabus, as there was a time mechanism, like 45 minutes were there for teachers to cover the syllabus. So the teachers said that to cover the syllabus, it was relatively easy. If you talk about the subject wise, and the maths and science, these were the subjects where the teachers really faced a huge issue. They were not able to impart learning in a better way. And on the other hand side, when we talk about the Cs and IT departments, they said that they can think about the future of country to take online courses completely. Like if they are provided with a better infrastructure in the institutions, in the universities, they are ready to take this online learning in the upcoming future. But when we're talking about the sciences courses, maths, mathematics, accountancy, and all these commerce related courses, for them it's not possible to have online classes. Teachers from reputed colleges of Delhi NCR and the senior professors and the one who newly joined the faculties, they were not tech savvy. So they were very reluctant to adopt the online classes. Most of them were not even aware of online platforms for teaching. Hence, it was very difficult, to try something for new. Teachers. In fact, I just interviewed one of the teachers from FMS, and he was saying that since I'm about plus 50, I have never used online learning in my entire life. So for me, it has become so difficult to use it. So they were giving those courses to their juniors teacher and were asking them to take the classes. So of course the expertise who were there of the particular subject, they were not comfortable in using the online platforms. When we talk about the teachers from the rural areas, rural background faced tremendous problems of connectivity issue. Of course, this was one of the major issue, with online learning hindering the students to attend the lectures. Teachers from rural areas did not even have a laptop. So they used to conduct the they used to conduct the classes using the mobile phone. There was a lack of training with respect to rural areas. If we talk about the dropouts, something which was very ironical for me when I asked the teachers whether there was dropouts in the rural area, because since the gadgets were not available, connectivity issues were there, but rather this was not there. I mean, the females were rather participating in the classes because they don't have to travel outside their village, and buying a phone became a little better option for them to at least attend the classes. In fact, the teachers from the rural area, they were pooling together, and they used to fix a place where they can provide the learning to the students. So in rural areas, teachers have gone beyond their limit, and they have tried their best to provide the learning. Teachers from rural and urban areas opine that online learning is a choice only in the event of any disaster, crisis, or calamity, and cannot take place and cannot replace the traditional learning in the normal circumstances. To continue the online learning, desired proper training should be given to them that could involve better pedagogies for imparting good education to the students. They also suggested that governments should provide better infrastructure and equipment to the colleges for delivering the effective education. The educators from the self-aided college expressed their concern that since they are not even being the part of the policy making, and they are not even asked that what are the requirements they need in the field of education and training. When we talk about long-term deliverance of knowledge, more focus is needed on how to make learning socially beneficial. From here, the idea of cognitive theory of Habermas come into the picture, where he describes how language and reasoning is important in leading to disclosure between the participants for mutual understanding and consent. Therefore, it is important to encourage the teachers, students, and all the stakeholders to freely express their views, raise their voice for better dissemination of knowledge to the society, and save education from being converted to colonization of life world. My delimitations of the study that it is just confined to Delhi NCR, and also it was just having the views of the teachers of the higher education. And a conclusion is that sustainability issue is one of the major concerns that even if we adopt online learning, like, many colleges are taking to hybrid mode. But what is more important, that this thing should become sustainable. Like, we have to take it for a long term. So the platform should be designed in such a manner that is sustainable in the future. Future teachers, students, and researchers should unlock their innovation and should be encouraged to expand their capabilities with new online ecosystem. More has to be done to connect the unconnected. We need to understand the hope of connected future. High performing, high quality, and affordable and accessible broadband is really required. So these are my references. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, we can take it. And thank you so much for letting me present my. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much to the institution, to all the participants who were hearing me, and thank you so much for concerning this paper. Towards the tribal development, you are asking? Ethnographic. Ma'am, I think yes, there are a lot of research which has been done since it was digital ethnography. So I was being the part of the online classes which were happening. But I'm sure there are researchers who were living, with those people in the tribal area, and they're trying to understand. Because as far as I remember, when I read articles about the tribal areas, they were telling that they have to travel around 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers to get the internet connectivity. So, to understand that what are the challenges being faced by the tribal region, that is like pathetic. There, the situation is really pathetic. So this is what I got to know. But yes, there are researchers who are trying to, understand the hard reality of tribal areas. And of course, inequality is present in the society with respect to access to internet. And when you're talking about education is, right, it's a fundamental right. But, since this with respect to access to internet, it is really creating inequality in the society. Thank you so much, ma'am.
And methodology, it is an interdisciplinary study. I am Ms. Lakshmi Menon from the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning from Anantapur. And what I will present now is an extremely brief synoptic view of the paper that I have presented for the conference. Let me begin by asking some questions here. What is phenomenology? What is hermeneutics? What is literary studies? And most importantly, what is the correlation between all of them? Let's look at some definitions here. I would like to talk about what phenomenology is first. Phenomenology is a philosophy. It is also a methodology. It is a qualitative approach that is used in the social sciences, and it deals with the life world or the lived experience of its subjects. What then is hermeneutics? Hermeneutics has had a very long history. It is the art and science of interpretation of texts. It has been seen since the classical times, and it was involved in the intellectual period of the Enlightenment in Europe for biblical, for the interpretation of biblical texts, legal texts, and later on for imaginative literary texts with the coming of the Romantic age in literature. Hermeneutics in the 20th century was absorbed as an interpretative method by the social sciences via phenomenology. And that is how it is a method now called as phenomenological hermeneutics. What then is literary studies? We all know that literary studies is the study of imaginative literature. Imaginative literature is the representation of the world that we live in, the human world, and human beings, as represented through the several genres of literature like poetry, fiction, drama, film, and so on. What then does my study talk about? Well, my study talks about whether hermeneutics in this current orientation through phenomenology as a methodology of the lived world or the lived experience can be used as an interpretative technique in literary studies. Now, I would like to present one topic of interest to both the social sciences and the literary studies, that is the fragmentation of human identity through a video story or a parable. But before that, let me discuss a few of the commonalities between or the similarities between literary studies and the social sciences. The first parameter of similarity is the subject. Literary studies deals with the human world and human beings as depicted in imaginative literary texts. Social sciences deal with human actions and social interactions. That is the human world. The basis of knowledge generation in literary studies is the interpretation of texts through different lenses, through literary theories, comparative studies, interdisciplinary interpretations, where you could use philosophy, psychology, and other such. Whereas in social sciences, it is the interpretation of the meanings of human experiences as expressed through various channels like texts, interviews, and etc. What is the intent? The intent of literary studies is interpretative, and the intent of social sciences is interpretive and hermeneutic. Now, what is the key area? Now, let me just talk upon a few differences in these two fields. The differences are the key area of the study in literary study is human experience as represented through text. But in the case of the social sciences, it is the actual actions and expressions of human beings by a direct study of the human beings as subjects. Then, a key task for the systematic study of literature or literary studies is textual analysis to derive meaning and an understanding, whereas the key task in the social sciences for systematic study is explaining and reflecting on the intentions, the meanings, and the self-understanding of the subjects, leading to understanding. There is also something called as the circle of understanding or the hermeneutic circle, whereby the researcher who's researching the experiences of the subjects becomes a participant in the study. What is the methodology? The methodology of literary studies is descriptive, semiotic, linguistic analysis. The methodology of the social sciences is descriptive, qualitative, and mixed methods. What are the methods? Well, methods in literary studies is inductive method, analysis through the lenses of literary theory, interdisciplinary and comparative studies, whereas in the social sciences, it is also the inductive method where you analyze qualitative data and, as presented through case studies, interviews, textual analysis, etc. So as you can see, it is in textual analysis that an interpretation of the human experience contained within textual analysis that these two fields intersect. Now, I will like to present before you an example of this by taking the topic of fragmentation. We live in a very fragmented world, don't we? Is the world breaking up? Yes, definitely, figuratively, as well as the literal breaking up of nations and societies. Are we responsible for it? Probably. Well, let me narrate a story here to bring out an idea that I had about a solution to the fragmentation of identity. It is a small parable narrated by our Chancellor, Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. The parable goes like this. There was a mother and there was a son, and the mother gave the son a gift of a globe. The son was thrilled. He went on exploring all the countries and the nations depicted on the globe, and he was very happy. But the mother was not satisfied with merely gifting the son a globe. So she set a puzzle in front of him. And what was that? Well, it was a jigsaw puzzle. And the mother said, well, son, you just now saw the world, didn't you? Now arrange these jigsaw puzzle pieces into a map of the world that you have on the globe. A very tough task for the young man, indeed. As the boy was reflecting on how to go about this, his father came and saw him puzzling over the jigsaw puzzle pieces. And then the father, in order to help his son, gave him an idea, a brilliant idea. The father said, overturn each piece on the jigsaw puzzle, my son. And what do you see there? You see the jigsaw puzzles have different pieces of a human figure embossed on them. And now I will give you a tip. Just arrange the inverted pieces into the shape of the human figure. And then the son said, all right, father. And he did so. He arranged all the pieces of the human figure, and lo and behold, on the other side, all the fragments of the world arranged themselves into the world. The son was happy. The parents were happy too. What is the story here symbolized? The story here symbolizes that the solution to the fragmentation of the world rests with the individual. When our personalities and our characters and our self or identities get integrated, the world will be integrated as a result. Now, can this study be approached from both the social science angle and the literary angle? Definitely. And that is what I wanted to present before all of you today in this very, very brief sketch of what I can do. Through this phenomenological hermeneutics. Social sciences can obviously study fragmentation as a social phenomena, but fragmentation is also depicted in many, many literary texts, especially of the 20th century, that saw a lot of wars, world wars, genocides, the displacement of people, the breaking up of countries. So, if we use phenomenological hermeneutics in the interpretation of these texts, then what happens is literary studies can explore the life world embedded in the text in a more participatory manner of the researcher also. The second advantage is that literary studies, through this methodology of phenomenological hermeneutics, can also explore more socially relevant topics from all areas of human existence. With this, I bring my presentation to a close. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. There are a lot of parameters that can be used for this through semiotic analysis, which is a methodology and method in literary studies. It can also be we can also bring in different lenses. For example, I can bring in philosophy, I can bring in psychology, and I can use a hermeneutic analysis by using these many lenses, which is possible through phenomenological hermeneutics.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible? Okay, I will open my presentation. Just let me know if my slides are visible. Okay. So good afternoon to organizing team and all the participants. I am Ranjit Suryanshi from Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Engineering, Kolhapur. And my topic for presentation is comparative analysis and implementation of static and dynamic wired network using NS2 with NAM, XGraph and GNUplot utility. So basically what I've done is I have compared the two types of networks, that is static network and dynamic network, with the software called Network Simulator version 2. And in that software, we have different kind of packages or utilities like NAM, network animation, XGraph and GNUplot for viewing the network traffics and plotting the parameters in form of graphs. Okay. So abstract for this topic is, as we know, communication plays a very important part in different aspect of personal as well as professional life, as it gives the data of new innovations, advancement, research happening all over the world. So all these sectors nowadays like government, corporate, education, entertainment, etc. are moving on an online platform. And we have seen concepts like work from home, online shopping, online education, e-commerce, online banking. So use of computer network in today's world has been increased tremendously. So we now have ability to communicate, retrieve data thanks to internet, which has a big impact on our life or how we work and how we live. So in this paper, what we have done, we have implemented static and dynamic wired networks designed with different node scenarios and topologies along with packages included in NS 2.3.5, 2.3, NS 2.35. So version used is 2.35. So introduction, computer network is basically a group of computers connected together to share the resources or exchange the information. Resource sharing can be either a hardware sharing or a software sharing. For hardware sharing, we can have an example like printer shared among multiple number of computers or a scanner shared among multiple number of computers. And for a software, we can have an example of application program can be shared among multiple number of computers. So when we use a computer networks, we can think of 5 basic components of an computer network. Like we can have a sender, receiver, a message, medium, and a protocol. Basically, sender is a device which generates the information. Receiver is a device which is receiving the information. Medium can be the links, that can be physical link or a wireless link between sender and receiver. Information can be a image, audio, text, video, etc. And protocols can be a set of rules defined for successful communication. So what do you mean by wired network? Basically, wired networks are the networks formed with the help of physical connection with different components included in a computer network. So best example today in a wired network is a local area network, that is a LAN technology, that what we use in our colleges, organization, corporate offices, companies, industries. Okay. So backbone of this wired network is Ethernet. Ethernet is a IEEE 802 point standard defined for wired networking, which is supporting a speed of 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. And nowadays, with lot of advancement and evolution in Ethernet technology, we can even have a data rate speed of 10 Gbps and more than that with a technology called fiber optic communication. So when we use a wired network, we can think of different types of topologies like star topology, ring topology, bus topology, and maze topology. So what do you mean by topology? Topology is basically a way in which we connect number of devices in the network, or it is a geometric representation of number of nodes in that network. So that is a topology. So we can have star topology, ring topology, bus topology, and maze topology. So few of the topologies I have implemented in this particular topic for configuring static as well as dynamic networks. So before we move to an results and discussion, what is the difference between static wired network and dynamic wired network? That I will explain in short. So basically, static networks are user-defined networks, and dynamic networks are where routes are updated according to the topology. So static networks are non-adaptive networks and dynamic networks are adaptive networks. Static networks can adapt for change in topologies, cannot adapt for change in topologies, whereas dynamic networks can adapt for change in topologies. So what do you mean by change in topologies? Whenever there is a link break between the nodes, or whenever we add some devices, extra devices in our network, then our topology changes. So such type of scenarios can be easily adapted in dynamic networks, whereas in static networks, such changes cannot be adapted automatically. So static networks are very basic networks which are not automatic, they are manual, whereas dynamic networks are automatic networks which are not a manual. Also, in static network, whenever there is a link break between the devices, rerouting is not possible. Whereas in dynamic network, whenever there is a link break, then rerouting can be possible. So that is a major difference between a static network and dynamic network. Moving to an results and discussion. So here, as I said, we have used a software called NS2. Basically, NS2 is a event-driven network simulator tool, which is open source tool. So using this tool, we can configure and create different network scenarios for simulation purpose. So using this software, we have created two networks, static network and dynamic wired network. So in static wired network, what we have done, we have configured 6 nodes. Out of that, 2 we have configured as a source node and 2 nodes we have configured as a destination node. So source 1 and source 2 are source node, and destination 1 and destination 2, that is 5 node and 4 node are the destination node. And on these nodes, we have used protocols like TCP protocol and UDP protocol. So for source 2 and destination 2, we have configured TCP protocol. And for source 1 and destination 1, we have configured UDP protocol, that is user datagram protocol. And along with these protocols, we have used 2 types of traffic, that is Cbr traffic and FTP traffic. Cbr traffic is constant bit rate and FTP traffic is a file transfer protocol. So Cbr is sent from source 1 to destination 1, which is indicated by green packets, whereas FTP traffic is configured from source 2 to destination 2, which is indicated by red packets. So this is a second scenario of static wired network where we have analyzed the scenario for packet loss. So if you observe between node 2 and 3, whenever the traffic or packets become more in that particular link area, then due to congestion, some of the packets will get dropped. So that can be indicated on that simulator. So why this congestion occurs? When network is unable to handle lot of traffic in a network, then that scenario might occur. Then in the third case, we can easily see both flows, that is Cbr flow and FTP flow. Then moving to X graph for a static network. So this is an X graph package which is installed as a third party for NS2 software. Using this X graph platform, we can plot the packet transmission which we observed in the network simulator. So this is basically a graphing tool for plotting the graph for packet transmission during a specific time, that is from 0 to 4.5 seconds. Also, there is one more utility called JNU plot. So JNU plot is also one of the inbuilt utility for NS2. We can simply have a command like JNU plot, and we can define the commands for JNU plot in our program and plot the graph for JNU plot for different networks. For now, we have plotted this for static as well as dynamic network. So from this graph, we can analyze the packet transmission and congestion areas in the network. So that was about an static wired network results. Now moving to an dynamic wired network results. So here in dynamic wired network, we have again used 7 nodes. One node we have configured as a source node, and another node we have configured as a destination node. That is 0 node is our source node, and third node is our destination node. So ring type of topology we have used here, and protocol like TCP is configured on source 0 and destination 3, and type of traffic used is FTP. So source 0 sends the traffic or packets to destination 3 via node 1 and 2. But as I said earlier, dynamic networks are adaptive networks. They can adapt easily for change in topology. So what we have tried to show here is whenever there is a use the protocol implemented in the network, that is distance vector routing, and it will try to find the another route for sending a data from node 0 to node 3. So this is shown in the next slide, where previous path was from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. But if there is a problem in a link between 2 to 3, then route has been automatically changed from 0 to 6, 6 to 5, 5 to 4, and 4 to 3. So this can be possible in dynamic wired network with the help of routing protocols, whereas in static networks without any routing protocols. Again, we have plotted a graph for dynamic networks using X graph and JNU plot utility of an conclusion. So for the simulation, we discovered that rerouting is not possible in static network if the link between the node is broken. But in the case of dynamic wired network, if there is a link break between two nodes, then routing can be done through other route automatically with the help of routing protocol. So here we have configured distance vector routing protocol in dynamic wired network. And also with the help of X graph and JNU plot utility, we can analyze the performance of these implemented networks. So these are the references. Thank you. If you have questions, you can ask.
Yeah, my first question is, sir,
Yes.
why NS 2.35? Why not NS 3?
Yes, we have a version NS3, right? But I have used NS2 version because it is a simple version and it supports the language C and TCL, whereas NS3 supports a language called Python. I have command on C and TCL, that's why I used NS2.
Okay, and what are the performance measuring parameters for static and dynamic that we have not shown any tabular comparative in between?
Yeah, we can use awk scripts for generating the parameters. We can calculate the bandwidth throughput, these parameters we can consider.
Yes, that is missing in your results, right?
Yeah. What my aim was to just compare static and dynamic animations and graphs. From graphical point of view, I have analyzed this comparison.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes.
And 887 is favored. Is it visible? Is my slide visible? Okay. Respected members of the panel and the presenters of the conference, my loving Sairam and warm afternoon greetings to all. I am Priyam Vada, a doctoral research scholar from the Department of English, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Andhra Pradesh. Today I will be presenting my research paper entitled Studying Suggestiveness Through Shabda Vyaparas in Tennyson's Crossing the Bar. What is Dhwani and Shabda Vyaparas? Dhwani is the ability of a signifier, a set of signifiers, a meaning, a sound, or a gesture to suggest pradiyamana, that is something other than what it explicitly presents. A word has three powers or Shabda Vyaparas through which sense of poetry can be obtained. The central thesis of the theory of Dhwani is that words in their capacity of conveying sense possess a threefold function and consequently express a threefold sense. The three functions are abhida, denotation, lakshana, indication, and vyanjana, suggestion, and the three senses conveyed are abhideya, giving it scope to add Sanskrit literary theory analysis. Now let's look at the abhideyartha or denotative meaning of the poem Crossing the Bar. At the surface level, this poem is about a sea voyage. When the poem begins, there is sunset and evening star, which marks the end of the day. A ship is about to start its voyage. Tennyson mentions the final call, which is given for all the passengers to board just before the ship embarks on its journey. Tennyson himself is a traveler. When he starts his voyage, he does not want any moaning. He does not want to hear the murmuring sound of the waves and also the sound created by the ship hitting against the sandbar. He also wishes for a tide which is moving and not static, which helps in movement without making any noise. Then rings the evening bell announcing the closing of the day. He wishes that nobody is sad when he bids farewell at his journey. So he may be carried beyond the limits of time and space as understood by humans. He retains the hope that he will be able to look upon the face of his pilot when he has crossed the sandbar. Let's see the Lakshanartha or connotative meaning. Evening bell is an implicit metaphor and is compared to the final call. The external metaphor of sea runs throughout the poem. The title Crossing the Bar is a metaphor of the journey from life to afterlife, and the bar stands for death. The clear call is the announcement to alert that death is approaching. Sunset and evening star is a metaphor indicating that the poet is in the final years of his life. The evening star is like a guiding star for the clear call of journey through death to the nether world. It also indicates the wisdom that comes with sunset or old age. In the title, the word bar is also metonymic. Bar stands for the ocean itself. The word pilot also metonymically represents somebody who leads an individual forward. Since Tennyson is expecting death, Pilate can be Christ, who was himself crossed, who will help him to cross the ocean. The wordplay of crossing is metaphorical as Jesus died on a cross. Jesus resurrected 3 days after, but only after crossing did he resurrect. The metaphor of sunset indicates that as with sunset, the actions of a day come to an end, so too the actions of man come to an end with the closure of human life. The evening star is old age. It is a warning of death's arrival. Tennyson says, "One clear call for me." He is certain of his death. The words twilight and evening symbolize old age. It takes a lot of struggle for a ship to cross over a sandbar. So too, mourning is symbolic of the struggle during death. Bar is the barrier or death to be crossed in order to meet God, who is symbolized in the word Pilate. The flood which will take him part is symbolic of the faith of the poet. In Christianity, God is believed to be the pilot of everyone's life. This leads to the understanding that the pilot is God. Mourning is usually connected with the pain during death. Depth of the tide is symbolic of wisdom and faith in God. The waves rising from the sea is symbolic too. Man comes to earth for a short span and turns again home. The term boundless deep is indicative of that real home. Mourning is usually associated with pain and anguish. He wants to have a painless and peaceful death. He wants to have complete contentment when death approaches him. And once the bar or death is crossed, he hopes to see his pilot, that is God. Now let us see Dhwani or suggestive meaning. Tennyson was 80 years old when he penned this poem. And he was well aware of the next phase of the journey which awaited him. He had asked this poem to be added at the end of all his poetry editions. The vignette of life after death evidently runs through the poem. An Indian reader cannot help but get detracted into Indian philosophy here. According to Indian ideology, death is not the end as the soul goes on to take another birth which befits its actions of the previous birth. The ones who have done away with all the karmas or baggage attain liberation. There is the concept of Bhavasagara or the ocean of worldly life in Sanatana Dharma. According to this, in order to cross the Bhavasagara, one needs a master alongside to help row through the sea, a master who has crossed the sea himself and can guide his disciple in the right direction. Once the Bhavasagara is crossed, the body perishes and the soul travels from this world, Iha, which is temporary, to the next, that is Para, which is permanent. It is a kind of homecoming. We are here in this world only for a short span of time. We belong elsewhere and we return there after death. The 4 Mahavakyas given in the Upanishads also confirm the same. The 4 Mahavakyas are Tattvamasi, meaning you are that, Aham Brahmasmi, meaning I am Brahman or divine, Prajnanam Brahma, meaning consciousness is divine, and I am Atma Brahma, meaning the self or soul is divine. We all are part of the divine or the ultimate consciousness. Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba says, I separated myself from myself so that I can love myself. We are here only for a while, after which we return to our real home. In that case, mourning is unnecessary. Nobody cries as much while returning home. And evening star is symbolic of calmness. It also indicates the final call from the other world to come and join the journey towards it after crossing the bar of death. Once the bar is crossed, what awaits him is a pilot or ultimate reality. Experiencing God is a solace. In daily life too, man needs to cross that bar for a better life, a better career, or for better relationships. Till the bar is crossed, one stays wherever he is, stuck without any progress. Getting out of the comfort zone or crossing the bar is very important in life. That one step towards freedom, towards betterment of life should be taken, crossing all the mental barriers. Once it is crossed, a new world filled with possibilities welcomes warmly. There is no loud final call in this stage of human life. There are no loud hints, but subtle ones, directing man to take the right turn. Men who mourns over everything achieve less. People who do not loudly show what they do in their life or where they are headed reach their goals. There is no noise made, but they will not be static either. There is silent movement forward. Like twilight is a hint for the next phase, that is night, so too life offers subtle but visible hints to help man journey forward. Man is put in the same kind of circumstances, similar situations, and people with affinities to make him aware of what went wrong previously and how to handle those situations well. Life offers many chances to grow, chances to overcome, till man learns and moves forward. In daily life, too, man can heed to the evening bell and bow down to God or the higher power, seeking help to cross the various bars of human life. That would surely lead man to face the problems and see the end of dreaded situations, even if it is death. Tennyson has the attitude of complete acceptance towards this inexperienced journey and is in a state of contentment. Since death is a reality, he does not want his farewell to be sad. He also hopes to meet his pilot, thus there is no mourning. He wishes for tides too full for sound and foam to sail him beyond the waters of death smoothly. In the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, we pray to the pilot who knows the past, present, and future to let us detach ourselves easily from the worldly bondage as easily as the Urvaruka or the goat detaches itself from the stem. He believes that he will be taken to another level of time and place different from human understanding. According to Christianity, the crossing of Jesus gave man the blessing to reach another time and place, heaven, and reunite with God. The suggestive understanding behind the metonymic bar leads the reader to intertextuality here. Taking the 91st verse of Tagore from Gitanjali and placing it in this context, we find intertextuality. In the last couple of poems of Gitanjali, Tagore has spoken about death. Bar can be equated to death. Death is not the end, but only a stage to be crossed. Tagore sees death as an important link between God and the seeker. This is close to Tennyson's seeking link with his pilot. Thus, it evokes intertextual allusion here. When both poems are compared, the title suggests the reversal of subject. After analyzing Tagore's poem, we find that death becomes the subject who is crossing the bar to come and take the bride to meet his master. In the Bible, it is said that for now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Crossing the Bar is a short but meaningful poem enlightening readers on how one should be ready to leave when the final call is heard. The application of Shabda Vyaparas has helped fathom various levels of meanings present in the poem and make the poem universal, meant for people at all times and places, preparing everyone to leave this time and place. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Physics is available.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, thanks. Okay, sir. Thanks, sir. Very good afternoon. I am Kosa Jain, MTech student from GB Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, Pantnagar. The topic of my research work is a fine projection algorithm and synchronous reference frame theory based control of three-phase DVR for power quality enhancement. Introduction. Nowadays, power quality has become a major challenge for industrial world and electrical consumers. The rising demand for electronic devices and nonlinear loads are the main causes of poor quality problems. And the most occurring poor quality problem is voltage sag and swell. And the DVR is a cost-effective solution to this problem. Literature review. Performance of DVR is highly influenced by the type of control method used. Various theories have been presented in the literature, like IRPT, but it has a problem that it does not function well when the supply voltage is contaminated. SRF uses PLL, which is difficult to implement in real time and difficult to tune internal parameters. Now, the adaptive LMS is a popular theory for shunt current correction, but it has a problem that the rate of it has a problem of steady state misalignment. To reduce the steady state misalignment, normalized LMS and variable step size and LMS have been used, but there is a problem of slow convergence rate when input signal is highly correlated. This is the system configuration of three-phase DVR. This figure shows the configuration of three-phase DVR, which consists of three single-phase transformers connected in series with supply voltage, the voltage source inverter, a DC link capacitor, and a filter to filter out the harmonics. A fine projection algorithm. In situations where the input signal is highly correlated, the fine projection control strategy is found to be more suited than the LMS control approach. Here, the inverse of the input signal matrix is calculated for the weight update. For synchronization, here the template generation is used. These are the equations for the template generation. Weight is one input, and the other input is the unit template, and the third input is the source voltage. The generated weight of the three here these are the equations for the first phase, and the respective phases have the same equations like this. So here the mu is the step size, and we have taken it 0.02, and del here is the regularization parameter. E is the error signal, which is input minus output, and VP, it is the generated voltage. The generated weight of three phase is added, and the low pass filter is used to filter out lower order harmonics. To maintain the constant DC link voltage, DC PI controller is used and then compared with the weight to give out the updated weight, which is then used as the input. The reference load voltage generated are compared with sensor load voltage using the SPWM control technique, and the generated pulses are given to the voltage source inverter to perform desired function. Results and discussions. The figure here shows the balanced sag swell. A is in case of SRF and B is in case of a fine projection. From here in A, from 6.4 second to 6.5 second, there is a 20% voltage sag, and between 6.6 second and 6.7 second, there is a 20% voltage swell. The DVR, here we can see the DVR injects appropriate voltage to compensate the same, and we can see the load voltages is as per the requirement, and the DC link voltage here is maintained at this reference value, that is 300 volt, and only shows a slight variation during sag and swell, which is allowed. Here we can see that both the controllers performed well during balanced sag swell condition. Now coming to the figure 5, it shows the unbalanced sag swell. A is in case of SRF and B is in case of AP. Here, unbalance is created by creating voltage sag only in phase A and during 6.4 second to 6.6 second. In case of SRF, the injected voltage is not appropriate to compensate the unbalanced sag swell appropriately. But as can be seen in case of a fine projection, shows the harmonic spectrum and THD in case of SRF. Here, figure A shows the THD of source voltage, which is 21.21%, and B shows the THD of load voltage, which comes out to be 4.22%, which is below 5% and complies within the IEEE 519 standard. Figure 7 here shows the harmonic spectrum and THD in case of a fine projection. The source voltage here has a THD of 21.21% and load voltage 2.67%, which is well below 5% as per IEEE 519 standard. Here, the figure 8 shows DC link steady state stability in case of SRF and a fine projection. Here we can see the rise time of SRF is 0.1067 second, and in case of a fine projection, it comes out to be 0.0877 second. That means the affine projection is better as compared to the SRF. And here the settling time in case of SRF is 2.9478 seconds, and in case of fine projection it is 2.7731, which is further AB is better as compared to the SRF. Here overshoot value is small as in AP as compared to the SRF. Conclusion. Here we have used a 6-pulse voltage source inverter based DVR with SRF and AP control algorithms, and is designed and developed using MATLAB simulation tool. Synchronous reference theory based DVR is able to compensate balanced sags effectively, but unbalanced sags is not effectively mitigated by this control scheme. Projection has better performance than SRF as it is effective in mitigating both balanced as well as unbalanced sags well. Additionally, compared to results obtained by SRF technique, the suggested AP algorithm offers a high convergence speed. These are the proposed system specifications. We have used 415 volt 3-phase supply and frequency 50 hertz. Here the injection transformer has a rating of 6.4 kVA and is 1:1 ratio. Load we have used 10 kVA, 0.8 power factor lagging, DC link voltage 300 volts, DC link capacitance 4700 microfarad, interfacing inductor 5 millihenry, ripple filter 2 ohm and resistance 2 ohm and capacitance 16 microfarad. Switching frequency here we have used 10 kilohertz. These are the references. Thank you.
Sir, 886 is available. Sir, 886 is available. I have a mic. Yeah. Okay, thanks. My presentation is about the Monte Carlo modeling of a medical linear accelerator. And I am Renil as a research scholar in Nurul Islam Center for Higher Education. And this is a medical linear accelerator for treating the cancer radiotherapy treatment machine. And this has a high energy photon, that means X-rays of megavoltage range. And this we are doing measurement of dose deposited to the patient or tumor in the cancer cells. So this is the defining why we have the Monte Carlo simulation for this linear accelerator. Most of the parameters regarding the radiation beam, the dose deposition in the patient body is based on the calculations in the water. And we will, before we start the treatment in to the patient, we used to measure all the parameters of the machine is correct and going fine. So we do a lot of commissioning procedures. And due to some of the uncertainties, when we are going with a very small radiation field to treat the tumor, very, very small, which is in the lung or in the brain, some of the measurement parameters will be uncertain because of the inability of the measuring devices such as small radiation field detectors. And this shows the normal field size of 40 centimeter or bigger. And in case of a very small tumor, the field size will be very less. This will be adjusted in the treatment machine itself. And sometimes we measure the parameters of the field, like depth dose or the dose deposition profile. It will be less or less compared to the actual values because of the detector size and the comparability of the detector size with the field size. And this can be overcome by using a Monte Carlo modeling. Monte Carlo modeling is a statistical modeling to solve the problems which cannot be analytically solved. And in this work, we model the linear accelerator with the NRC Monte Carlo code. This is from NRC Canada, National Research Council of Canada, and collect the phase data. Phase data means data including the photon's energy and momentum and positions, and validate the model with the measurement at different radiation field size, and compare the dosimetric parameters of radiosurgical cones. These radiosurgical cones are the collimators, which is collimating the radiation field in a fine size like 5 mm to 15 mm, and using especially for treating very small tumors in brain. And as the part of the commissioning or validation of commissioning, first we have to set the initial energy of the linear accelerator. Linear accelerator produces X-ray beams by hitting the accelerator electrons on a tungsten target. The first electron beam that hit the target has to be adjusted to match the actual value of the electron's energy with the measurement. And this, for that we use a depth dose curve. That means how the dose is depositing in when it is going into deep depth. Since the human body is comparable to the radiologically comparable to the water, and we do all the measurements in a water tank of 15 to 50 size, and this before we start treatment, we have to calibrate the machine. All over the world, the treatment machines are calibrating in 10 into 10 centimeters field size. And as a part of energy tuning, we took the depth dose curve, how the energy is depositing when it is going deep into the water, that we will measure, and we will change when it is the model's electron kinetic energy value is less than that of will be adjusted, tuned to match with the measurement. This is the tuning curve, and also the profile, beam profile. That means when it is a detector is moving across the radiation field, or how will be the radiation profiles looks like with the dose deposition. Dose deposition is means simply the energy deposition, how it looks like, and we will adjust the FWHM full width at half maximum of the electron beam, which is hitting in the tungsten target, will be adjusted to match with the measured value. And this is a two primary procedure that we do as a tuning of the model. And once the model is tuned, we will look for all other field size, like this is going up to 2 into 2 centimeters square to 40 into 40 centimeters square. All that those curves we plotted, we measured, and we model. The model data should be matched with the measurement. Then only we will consider this as a validation procedure. This is the depth dose, and this is the some of the points in the curve we are comparing and how it will be looks like. And there is a statistical analysis called gamma evaluation. We do to match two set of data, that is data sets which is coming from the measurement and data sets which is coming from the modeling. So we will compare and quantify it, how much it is close each other. And this is the dose deposition profile. We took it at 1.5 centimeter depth in a water tank of 50 to 50 centimeters square. And we also compared this based on how these dotted lines are Monte Carlo modeled, and the solid lines are measured beam profiles, those deposition profile. And these are the comparison of the field size. Field size means in this case we will take the 50%. 50% what is the width of this profile, that is we consider as the field size, and we compared the measurement at Monte Carlo. And this is at a different depth. We did this procedure as a part of the validation procedure. And now we move on the radiosurgical point. Radiosurgery is abbreviated as SRS, and stereotactic radiosurgery. This is the full form of this. In this we use very small collimators like 5 mm to 15 mm, and these parameters, when we are measuring, this will be something, some uncertainty can occur, and we will check this with the validated model. We previously validated with the previous measurement, and we'll check how much we are deviated from the actual values that we measured and modeled. And this is almost all field sizes almost is comparable within 1.1%. And this is the comparison of data at different field sizes. We check at different points at 5 centimeter, 10 centimeter, and 20 centimeter. And this is a gamma analysis, statistical analysis to compare the data. And this is the beam profile. Since the SRS cones are circular in shape, we took the half profiles and compared both, and it's also matching well. And this is the profile field width we compared, and it's also matching well in the analysis to set of data that is measured and calculated with the Monte Carlo modeling. And this is the one of the parameter what we use to calculate the radiation output of the machine, that is the output factor. This will be corresponding to each of the collimeters, and this is the radiation ROF means relative output factor. This is the Monte Carlo model, and this is the measured. And we saw some deviations of 4.3% and 3.4 when we are going very low field size of 7.5 to 5 mm. And this is the plot of that. This we are investigating this because it is measured with a stereostatic field detector, which is made up of a silicon diode. And silicon have a property of over responding at a very low collimeter sizes, and this need a correction factor, and we are for that we need the actual dimensions and internal designs of this detector, and this is the next of our project. And in conclusion, Monte Carlo model of the linear accelerator equipped with the SR response was developed and validated with the measurement. Monte Carlo calculated dose profile PDD were compared using gamma analysis, and the point dose comparisons and modeling results were found agree with the measurements, and the relative output factor demonstrated significant variations of 4.3 to 3.4% at different field sizes, especially in the low dimensional field sizes. These are my conclusions, and these are some of the references. Thank you. Any questions?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So,
Wait.
hello. So I'm 885. When can I give my presentation? Actually, my mic was not working at that time. So I can continue. Okay, thank you so much.
Shall I start, ma'am? Okay, my topic is the pressure of human relationship in Geeta Hariharan's novel. My paper ID is 2022-894. My name is I'm Panni Selvi, research scholar at Department of English at Chikana Government Arts College, Tirupur, Tamil Nadu. Geeta Hariharan is a well-known literary personality. She is a contemporary writer. She is a philosopher, storyteller, teacher. I have chosen her 3 novels for this research article: The Stories of the Thousand Faces of Night, The Ghost of Vasu Master, and In Times of Siege. These 3 novels are examined in detail in this research paper. She has presented a variety of relationships such as the illiterate, well-educated, Brahmin family background, rich and poor people also. The approaches of human relationship deals with the psychological variables of organizational functioning in order to increase the efficiency of organization. It is the process of integration of man to man and man to organization. This study examines two forms of human relationship. The first one is the man-to-man relationship, and the second one is the man and women relationship. In man-women relationship, Geeta Hariharan depicted husband-wife, mother-son, father-daughter, father-in-law to daughter-in-law relationships. The Geeta Hariharan's first novel, The Thousand Faces of Night, the protagonist Devi, but her mother Sita, she is the wife of Mr. Mahadevan. She is the mentor of her boss as well as motivating him to succeed in his work. This relationship makes a beautiful bonding. This makes a man. This makes a man successful because of a woman. Then the most common man-to-man relationship include father and son, brother and uncle, uncle and nephew, grandfather and grandson. Geeta Hariharan showed the protagonist husband Mahesh and his father's relationship beautifully. It is an excellent relationship between father and son. A retired professor of Sanskrit, he is a man of he is a man of patriarchy. He is a Mahesh father. Mahesh father is affectionately referred to by his wife. He is well versed in Brahmin scripture. His son Mahesh is a modern man who has completed his management degree and work in a company. After retiring, Baba is now a free man and Mahesh is a man who keeps himself very busy. Because of his traveling employment, he spends most of his time away from home. He doesn't have a time to spend his father. So he doesn't have a time to accommodate his father's hobbies and etc. But his father wants to respect his father wants to his son's time. He wants respect from his son, but he has no time for such ideas. Then the next novel, The Ghost of Vasu Master, the relationship between the protagonist Vasu and his son and his two sons, they have a beautiful bonding. The father loved his son very much, but they didn't have time to spend time to care him. They have no time to visit him because of his busy schedule, because of their busy schedule. Then the next novel, In Times of Siege, the protagonist Shivamurthy and his father, he lost his father at his young age, but he revolves around the memories from his father. His father, he feels his father given the guidance from his father given the guidance when he is struggle. He lives his father's memory during the extended period of his father's absence. Then conclusion, Geeta Hariharan has a clear understanding of the concept of human relationship in these three novels. Her fiction is a place where one can observe and see the multiplicity of human relationship. Everyone continues to help make a bond people with others and develop strong human relationship with one to one. These are the sources to analysis for this resource paper. Then thank you. Thank you is a miraculous expression. We feel good when we say it, and we feel good when we hear it. When we speak or hear the words thank you, the emphasis falls from our heart and we communicate on the deepest level. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. 896 is available. I'll be sharing. Yes, yeah, ma'am. Yeah. Is my screen visible? Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Sanjay Shamra Pawar, and with me I have Manik Sononi and Kamlakar Desai and Satish Potwa. We are here for a presentation on an epileptic seizure classification using an intracranial electroencephalography. In this presentation, we'll be covering about an introduction, what is electroencephalography, and mainly our work is on an intracranial electroencephalography. The elliptical seizure classification system that we have developed, its results, a conclusion, and the references. As we know that the brain represents a status of our whole human body, a recording of this brain signal is very useful in diagnosis and detection of and treatment of various brain-related disorders. One of a neurological disorder which has been there, which is nothing but an epileptic seizure, which occurs due to an excessive electrical discharge from a neuron. Large number of cells, whenever they get activated abnormally, and they give rise to an electrical storm that causes of an epilepsy. Whenever an epilepsy may cause, there is a loss of an consciousness, and approximately that is 2%, which is an 50 million of an people, which is worldwide, are being affected by this disease. As we can see into an right hand side, how normally a neural gets activated, and in an abnormal, whenever a seizure gets activated, this is how a neuron gets fired. Whenever a neuron gets fired and abnormally, there is a seizure which occurs. During a seizure, the patient may fall or go into an uncontrollable state, and depending upon which part the seizure has occurred, that part may be affected. Electroencephalography is a monitoring method to record electrical activity of an brain. Previously, electrodes are being placed on an heads, and the signals are being captured, and then a diagnosis or analysis of an signals are being done. But the new technique which has been there, which is an intracranial electroencephalography, in which the electrodes are being implanted over the cortex of an brain by an surgery, and then the signals are being taken. So we are working on to this, that is an intracranial electroencephalography, where the signals are being recorded by implanting a grid strip or a depth type of an electrodes. The thing which has been good about this intracranial electroencephalography is that we get a higher magnitude of an signals, and these signals are being free from an artifact. Artifacts are the noise which comes, which has been mainly present into an EEG. But in case of an IEG, which is an intracranial electroencephalography, it's an artifact free, which helps an exact diagnosis and which also helps for an epileptic seizure. Normally, the signals which have been captured are been in the various bands of frequencies. Bands are been there, which is alpha, beta, gamma, theta, and delta. The very important frequencies for an seizures are alpha frequencies and beta frequencies. So we are working on to these two frequencies, which is an alpha frequency and beta frequency. The alpha frequency is from an 8 hertz to your 13 hertz, and beta frequency is from an 14 hertz to your 30 hertz. So what we are doing, we are extracting a signal, and we are extracting the exact band, which is an alpha band and your beta band, and from there we are doing a band analysis. This is a classification system that we have built. In this, we have used the IEG signals, that is an intracranial electroencephalography signals. From that, we have extracting a ectal segment, which is nothing but your seizure segment. The extracted ectal segment, which is a seizure segment, is been pre-processed. Pre-processed means where a noise artifacts are being removed if it has been present, and then we have implemented upon discrete wavelet implementation, that is discrete wavelet transform. This discrete wavelet transform, what it does, it separates out an frequency and it gives up an exactly, that is an alpha frequencies and your beta frequencies to us. So we have used up to an 8 level of an decomposition in case of a discrete wavelet transform to get up an alpha frequencies and your beta frequencies. From there, we have extracted a features such as kurtosis, skewness, which gives up an exact indication that whether a seizure is been there, that is an epileptic seizure is been there or not. As we are doing this with respect to an electrodes, that how many electrodes are been showing up and seizure. Depending upon a number of an electrodes, depending upon a number of, am I audible? Hello? Yeah. Yeah. Depending upon a number of an electrodes, we have classified upon seizures. So the database that we have taken is from an online, which has been freely available for an researchers. That is, which is IEG database, which has been freely available for an researchers for doing up an research work. We have extracted a ectal segment and then we have pre-processed that ectal segment by removing up an power noise and extracting an exact band of an frequencies, that is 3 hertz to your 60 hertz band pass filters, where we get alpha frequencies and beta frequencies. This band is been passed through your discrete wavelet transform. We have used a discrete wavelet transform and we have decomposed this signal into an 8 level of an decomposition. This we have done to extract the alpha frequencies and your beta frequencies, because these are the frequencies which are been responsible for an epileptic seizure. Now, whenever we get these alpha frequencies and your beta frequencies, we find out the features related to these alpha and beta frequencies, such as kurtosis, skewness, energies, and entropies. These are the features which gives us an exact indication whether the epileptic seizure is been present or not. And then we have classified the signals by using a two classifiers, one which is a support vector machine, which is called as an SVM, which is a supervisor classifier, and second one is your KNN, that is K nearest neighborhood algorithm. The best result that what we got is from an KNN, as it is an unsupervised and cluster type of an algorithm. A classification is very important for an surgeon, and to know exactly where from we are getting up a seizures from which part of an brain. For that, this is a data that what we have. In case of a database, there are 3 minutes of an pre-ectal segment has been there, and then a ectal which is a seizure which has been there from an 10 second to your 1002 second, depending upon a patient, and finally we have a 3 minutes of an post-ectal, that means after an seizure. As we know that the classification of a seizure is very important in case of a treatment and for an surgery in case of an epileptic seizure. So we have taken an ectal segment and we have done an analysis electrode wise, where ectal segment is been used and it is been classified. How we have extracted up an ectal segment? We have removed a first part, that is first 92,160 samples, which is an pre-ectal, and then we have removed a post-ectal segment, which is of again of a 92,160 samples, and what we get is finally that is an ectal segment. So this segment, which is a middle segment, we have analyzed by pre-processing, by then passing through your discrete wavelet transform, extracting your features as I said, and then classifying whether the seizures is been present or not electrode wise. Depending upon how many electrodes are been showing a seizures, we have classified a seizures as a focal seizure. A focal seizure is that seizure which originates from one part of an brain and where less than that is 40% of an electrodes are been showing a seizure. A second classification of an seizure that we have done is generalized seizure, where an entire brain where the electrodes are being mounted are being showing up an seizure. The percentage that we have taken, if an 80% and more electrodes are being showing up an seizure, we have classified those seizures as a generalized seizure. A secondary generalized seizure is that seizure which starts from one part of an brain and which extends to another part of an brain. So that we have captured it where there is a difference into an time, and if the percentage of an electrodes are been showing from 40% to 80% of an electrode are been showing up in seizure, we have classified the seizure as a secondary generalized seizure. So these are the three classifications that we have done. This is a database that we have used of 16 patients. From that online database which has been freely available. And in a second column, we have marked that how many electrodes are being showing up in a scissors according to your total number of an electrodes which are being placed. A total number of an electrodes which are being placed approximately are 100. So if an out of an 100, if 47 electrodes are being placed, then we mark, if the less number of an electrodes are being showing up in scissor, we mark it as a focal scissor. If more number of an electrodes are being showing up in scissor, we mark it as a general scissor. And secondary scissor, where if 40% to 80% are been electrodes are been marking a scissor, and if there is a difference into your time, then we are marking it as a secondary scissor. So this type of an classification helps us for an surgery. So if I come to an conclusion, a intracranial electroencephalography signals are being analyzed by our elliptical scissor classification system, and we have classified the scissor as focal scissor, generalized scissor, and your secondary generalized scissor. This elliptical scissor classification is very useful for understanding which part or which the region of an brain is been generating a scissor, or from where the scissor is been originating, and how it is been spreading through an entire, that is an brain. So this would be helping us for an scissor treatment and also for an brain surgery. These are the references that what we have used for our building up and system. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm there. Hello. Yes. Thank you. Just a second. Is my screen visible, sir? Hello. Okay. I'll do. Is my voice clear to you all? Okay. Just a second. Sure. Is it visible now? Is it visible, sir? Okay, fine. Visible? Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, one and all. My topic for the paper is Pragmatic Analysis of Machine Learning Models for Blockchain-Based Security Deployments from an Empirical Perspective. Basically, I am researching for an integration of a hybrid model with the blockchain and the AI technique. So here I'm presenting the paper wherein I have done the literature review for the same. So moving forward, this is the outline wherein I'll be telling you the introduction, why this is the need of the work, why the need of the work is required, my literature review, the proposed model which I am proposing, and the results and analysis and the comparisons which I have done from the literature review and the paper which I have gone through for working of this work, the delay analysis, conclusion, and the references. So to begin with, I want to prepare a blockchain model wherein I want to, main motto of my research is to improve the security to, as we say that we are integrating the blockchain model. So yes, security will be there. Plus, with the security, I just want to improve the quality of service for the particular application, whatever we want to get through this. So this includes which is not limited to the well-defined block structure, but also for the rules for recognizing each block and the rules for connecting the blocks together. When we consider the technology of the blockchain, so yes, we deal with the blocks and the data in it, wherein we integrate the blocks with the highest end of the security which we can give to the data inside the blocks. So there are well-defined architectures and the criteria for joining the blocks in the blockchains that are meant to serve a wide range of the functions. But here the rules are unambiguous for the block identifications, and on the other hand uses the hash values for each blocks to identify each one. In a simple meaning, I would like to explain here is, if we have aggregated a data in one particular block, so we need to secure that block. We need to secure the data in it. So for that thing, we generally implement the hashing methods with a secure hashing technique, that is the SHA. We do have the different levels of algorithms for providing this security with the help of the hashing techniques. And as an example, the current version of the Bitcoin, a new block, may only be added to the blockchain if the hashed initial 8 bytes are zeros. So blockchain has modified these 8 bytes. Previously it was 4 bytes, then 6 bytes, then the 8 bytes, and now recently they are like adding up the 8 bytes for this hashed value, which we calculate with the help of the hashing method for identification of a block and also for providing the security inside that block. So why the need of this work is needed? As a result of the high-speed stochastic calculations performed by a small set of high-performance nodes, the result is rule-based, and the result is a unique hash value. We should always have a unique hash value for a unique block, or we should have a unique hash value for each block. Then only we can say that we are providing the highest end of the security to the data. So this is done to make certain that the regulations are followed. Other mining nodes employ a consensus approach to confirm the results of these nodes. Basically, blockchain works on the two, or let's say 3 main consensus algorithm, that is the proof of stake, proof of work, and the proof of authority. These are the 3 major consensus algorithm on which the blockchain provides the security to the data. And a novel hybrid consensus model based on these facts is constructed in this piece of the literature. So what I am trying to research is to just integrate all these things to provide highest end of the security and to provide the quality of service for the data and for the applications. So as I reviewed the existing models for the high stakes, for high value decisions, consensus methods may help clear up any of the ambiguity that may emerge to, how to provide the uniqueness to the blockchains, how to provide uniqueness to the hashing with the help of the hashing algorithms. So that may have the financial, political, geopolitical, geographic, many other ramifications on these decisions. They may also have in order to decide whether or not to add a new block, or whether we should add a new block or should not add a new block. So blockchain employs all these consensus models. Basically, blockchain is a technique wherein we distribute the data in the proper manner to, give the security to the data. So these activity necessitates the development of several models by the researchers. According to the consensus model in the figure which I'll be showing, the verification of the financial transaction done by the proof of work, peer-to-peer network validation is the application of the cryptocurrencies. We all are very much aware about this term, that is the cryptocurrency, wherein the proof of work is highly applicable. So this is the figure wherein we can say that someone has a request of a transaction and the transaction is broadcasted to a particular network. So how the validation should work? That means if we take an example of the two consumer or two customers communicating among themselves, so every customer has to validate himself, has to validate the other customer as well to prove its identity, to prove its authenticity, so that the other person should be able to understand that this is the authenticated person with whom I have to start the communication with, or I have to take a message from. So the same way the validation also takes place. A verified transactions can involve cryptocurrency contracts, records, or other informations. So if we say that the transaction is complete, when we can say that transaction is complete, when the complete thing has been received by the other person with the proper mode of the transaction and with the complete security. So one has to verify. So for that verification purpose, for that validation purpose, the proof of stake and the proof of work technologies and these consensus algorithms are being implemented. So a broad range of consensus models have been created, published by the researchers for the efficiency in the blockchaining mechanism, wherein we do the mining of the blocks. Because of these models are implemented in network-specific applications, they are flexible, they are scalable as well for the amount of data. And because these things cannot be scaled to the bigger networks, these techniques have the poor services, what I was talking about, the quality of service. So to secure systems of modest size that utilize public and private blockchains, the study has been provided in one of the review papers, which suggests that using of the voting-based consensus can be a solution to it. So hybrid models are more successful than their single consensus-based equivalents in degree of scalability, and according to the study reported in the papers which I have referred for. So that is the main motto here, wherein I am trying to inculcate or make a hybrid model wherein I can integrate the proof of stake work along some AI techniques. So yes, as the review continued, a larger hash search spaces has also for researchers. Sorry, ma'am. Hello. Am I audible? Okay. Actually, I am presenting to Bombay, Mumbai, and here there's lots of rainfall since morning, so there might be the connectivity problem sometimes. Consensus models as well as the automated models, adaptive approaches. So many researchers have, put forward their research for implementing such type of the hybrid model, wherein we can improve the quality of service. So with the great mining efficiency, it is possible. The cryptographic models utilizing various hybrid encryption models. Cryptographic is just the terminology wherein we plain text into the cryptic format, wherein that format cannot be easily readable by the intruders or by the attackers. So multiple token proof of stake and the various variants of the proof of work models are some of the research topics which there given in the review papers which I have reviewed for the literature survey. Also, extra level of encryptions and the hashing techniques and the key exchanges mechanisms can also be provided by these models to increase the system's overall security. So, the proposed model designing process has it is mainly obvious from the literature analysis that academics have proved a variety of consensus models, and that each one uses a different mining algorithm to enhance the operational efficiency of the blockchain network itself. That is something that is clear from the study results. However, when we use for the large-scale network development, the bulk of these techniques exhibits accuracy. The bulk of these techniques exhibits the scalability, the adaptability towards the growing technologies, towards the growing data, towards the growing network. So here, the architecture which I proposed in my paper combines the proof of stake and the proof of work mechanisms to detect and rectify. Yeah. I'll do. So the hashing method is one main technique to make the blocks unique, and yes, the mining methodologies with the help of the combining of the
Okay, ma'am. Okay, fine, ma'am. Can I share my screen, ma'am? Okay. Is it visible, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to present on the topic strategies transfer in writing skills from dominant language to English. So, language is the communication tool for the human beings. And when it comes to the first language learning and second language learning, they both are different from each other. We can learn first language at the home environment, and we can learn the second language at school environment, or we can call it as instructional based mode learning. So when it comes to that, I use dominant language because in my sample, the sample was from different backgrounds, means they have different mother tongues like Telugu, Hindi, Urdu, and Lambada. So I cannot take mother tongue as the word for this study. So I took as dominant language as the uh, word for the suitable word for this study. So uh, basically, dominant language is the learner we can use more frequently or more enable language for them. This is called dominant language. And strategist transfer. Strategist transfer means if the learner wants to learn a target language, means they can transfer their linguistic knowledge from their dominant language or their first language to their target language. We can call it as strategies transfer. And objectives of the study to find out the strategies used in essay writing in Telugu by Telugu medium students,
And second one, to know if the strategies used in essay writing skills in English are the same as that in Telugu. And the third one, to check if there is any impact of strategies transfer from the dominant language to English through essay writing. So the research questions are, what are the strategies used in the writing skills in Telugu? And which strategies are similar between English and Telugu writing skills? How much impact is there by using strategies transferred from the dominant language to English? When it comes to the literature review, Rebecca Oxford proposed two types of strategies. Those were first one is for the learner who wants to learn English as their second language. For them, she proposed 80 strategies for them, and the English learner who wants to learn another language as their second language, for them she proposed 50 strategies. These strategies are basically two types. These are indirect and direct. In those indirect and direct strategies also, it has three subtypes. Those are cognitive, metacognitive, and social, affective, compensatory, and like social strategies. So when it comes to the language learning strategies, in this particular case, I took the sample was Telugu medium students, because the students who have completed 10th or they enter in Telugu medium, and after that they joined an English medium for their undergraduation. So in that case, they will face certain problems in the process of learning English, or to understand the subject or concept of the subject. So I took and I focused on those particular group. So, and in that case, the second literature reviews, which is proposed by Geeta Durairajan in 2016, using first more enable language as a positive resource in English classroom. In this paper, she mentioned that by encouraging the students to use their first and more enable language in the process of thinking or in the process of learning the target language, so they can think more flexibly when it comes to the English classroom, which is not allowed the mother tongue uh, in the process of thinking. So we can encourage them. We can see more positive results in the process of doing that. And another one, storytelling as a tool to develop writing skills of secondary learners in rural Telangana, an experimental study. This was done by Narendra Naik in 2017, and in this study, he took sample was the Lambada learners who doesn't have script per their language. So in that case, they don't have much knowledge in Telugu as well as English. When it comes to the schooling, then only they have to learn the Telugu language along with the English. So in that case, they don't have much knowledge in Telugu. Through that, they can't able to transfer the strategies in from Telugu to English also. So in this study, he used storytelling as a research tool. These stories are related to their culture and society. Through that, he completed the tasks of 8th standard English textbook, and he shown positive results by using the storytelling as a research tool and using multilinguality as an asset to learn writing. So in this case, the researcher Srideepa and Srilata shown that by using storytelling, like um, for the undergraduate students, after every story they have to write reading comprehension and summary writing tasks. So in that case, they have shown that by from first to third step, means this study was done in 3 steps. So from first to third step, they have shown positive results by using short stories as their intervention. So in those cases, and have observed that which the syllabus or the content which is relevant to the learner, then only the learner can get more interest in the learning process of target language. So when it comes to the methodology, this is exploratory research design, and analysis of the study was done in qualitative method with the triangulation part, and data sampling, selective sampling, sample size was 14, and data collection process, essay writing tasks in both Telugu and English, and after that essay writing task, focus group interviews for the students, and the research tools are focus group interview and researcher's diary. The process of data collection is, first the researcher asks the students to write an essay um, on the topic of money. So first write in Telugu. After that, they have to write in English. After analysis of these two tasks in Telugu and English with the same topic, money, so the researcher explained everything, means the what are the strategies used in Telugu and which are not used in the English essay writing. So researcher explained the possibility of the strategies usage in the mother tongue and the possibility of transferring strategies from Telugu to English. So after the second set of essay writing, the students tries to um, transfer strategies from Telugu to English with few mistakes. After repeated the second set of tasks, the students clearly transferred the strategies from Telugu to English with very less mistakes. In the focus group interview, they mentioned that they thought that they are unable to uh, learn the English language because of they don't have prior knowledge in the target language. So when the researcher explained everything to the students, they easily understand. They applied the concept from Telugu to English, and they try to transfer the strategies from Telugu to English. Those strategies are planning for the task, gathering information, organizing information, and discussing with other students or the researcher about their doubts. If they have any like pronunciation problem or in the understanding problem in the text itself, they can discuss with the other students or with the researcher. And after writing the essay, they can self-monitoring the essay. So these are the strategies basically. So these are the strategies used in this study to analyze the data of essay writing of the Telugu medium students. So when we compared it from first essay writing to third essay writing in English, so most of the students transferred the above strategies easily from Telugu to English. So in the conclusion, the students used the strategies in their dominant language, dominant, sorry, in the conclusions, it's not visible to you, sir. Sir, is it visible to you or not? Yeah. So yes, sir. So in the conclusion part, the students used the strategies in their dominant language without knowing these are strategies. So basically, they have much knowledge and more proficient knowledge in their dominant language. So they know how to write an essay, they know how to write a summary writing, they know how to do reading comprehension tasks. So without knowing these are strategies, they can use very easily. When they think about the same things or same tasks in the English, they thought that they don't have much knowledge to do those tasks because of lack of prior knowledge in the target language. And an irrelevant syllabus to the students made them more frightened in the learning process of English. I observed that the students are hesitated to ask questions in front of everyone, and they said that if they ask anything in front of everyone, they will make fun of them. So in that case, they only first thought that they don't know anything about the target language, and by changing the way of teaching to them, they can get more interest in the language. They will put their efforts towards English language learning. They think that knowledge in dominant language is asset to them in learning English. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, I just share my screen. Okay, sir. Fine. Is it visible, sir? Slides. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, one and all. So my paper ID is 8B1 and my title is RNN-based rapid threat detection and response system. So here we will go through some contents: that abstract introduction, literature review, that honeypot architecture, my proposed system, and whatever the results I have got from my proposed system, and after that conclusion and the references. So let us go towards the abstract part. So we know that the cybersecurity in the current time is going to play a major role, because if you see in the pandemic as well, the lots of the attack we are going to be faced in our network, computer network part, right? And obviously for that, the study in this particular field is very much important in nowadays, if you see the current era. So here in the cybersecurity field, we need to utilize some kind of the power of our AI as well, that is artificial intelligence. So in order to, by using the traditional tools and the approach in the cyber defense, along with the AI, we can able to achieve some kind of the defense in the cyber, and we can restrict these cyber crimes to in a certain amount, right? And for that, this particular study we are going to be do with the help of some recurrent neural network and some LSTM, that long short-term memory algorithms, to detect whether whatever the alerts or whatever the attack is going to be happen, where there exactly the real time, where there exactly the true attacks are there or not. Because to finding out whether the attack is true or the false, we are going to lose very much our precious time. And for that purposes, this particular study, this particular research is going to be take place into an account. So here, in terms of the introduction, if you see that it is a really important very part of any kind of the organization in terms of the cyber security, because whatever the data or the information every organization is having, it is very crucial for them, right? Because if you lost with that particular information or the data, it will be cause you too much amount of the time, as well the amount of the, you can say, the loss which will be occurred, right? And due to the complexity of these threats, right, the organizational is going to be struggle to deal with all these threats and all this part. Because if you nowadays say, as we know, the different versions of the corona viruses are there, right? Likewise here also in the computer network, we are going to the complex threats, right? There are some versions of the threats are there which we are not able to understand, not able to, you can say, that defend at a particular time period, right? And it will be, cause you a too much part, right? So here, with the help of the intelligence of this particular threat data, we are going to tackle these issues, we are going to defend these particular threats, as well as if any one organization is finding out the threat symptoms, for example, right? So that if they share with the other organization also, then it will be saving the lots of time for other organization, because in order to find out that, they also going to the same amount of the time. So with the help of the threat intelligence sharing platform, we can easily achieve that particular thing, and that is one of the motto which we have done in this particular research. So according to the literature review, we have gone with the several research work, and we have found out that some of the research work which will pertains to only the intelligence part, some of the research work is going to be to identify the any new attacks pattern. Some of the research paper is going to be terms only in order to defend that particular attacks with the help of some kind of the playbooks. The playbooks is nothing but some kind of the automation script that will be tackled whenever the attack is going to be happen. And this is something which really automation we are going to be used in this particular cyber defense as per the matter. So another approach in which we are going to use some AI ML techniques in order to classify the different kinds of the attack. So that also we have used. Then how to find out the cyber crimes with the help of this ML and AI techniques, that also we have used to find out, as well as based upon the different classification of these attacks, how we are going to preserve our privacy and the sharing of this particular threat intelligence. That is also is going to be matter, and in which regards also we have do certain literature review over here. So with respect to the honeypot that we have introduced over here in our research, that we are going to allow to apply or multiple honeypots over here with the help of some containerized applications. For example, over here I have given Downia, Covry, ADB Honey, Share Trainer, RDBY, Honey Trap, right? So there are lots of different honeypots we are going to be used, we are going to be combined to have a multiple honeypots, and that we are going to apply on the AWS cloud platform, so that whatever the requests are comes from all over the world, right? On that particular request, we are going to be find out whether and which attack pattern is going to be there, and after that we are going to analyze that particular data with the help of this uptime, help, MISP. These are nothing but some kind of the visualization and the data storing software, right, in which we are going to visualize that particular whatever the attack patterns, we will get it. And from this particular honeypot architecture, we will have our proposed system in which, after detection of this particular threat attack patterns, we are going to give the that particular input to our system. And here we can also use some intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system, where all the data is going to be analyzed. Then up on that particular data, we are going to apply some our AI and ML model with the help of RNN and LSTM, right? And to defend that, we are also going to do some kind of the automation over here with the help of the playbook, right? Whether that particular whatever attack we are going to be detected, right? So whether that defend opportunity is there and whether it will be available with us. If it is available with us, then we are going to run that particular corresponding playbook, and that particular attack is going to be defended, right? If it is not going to be available with us, that particular automation script for that particular attack, then we are going to pass that particular to the user. We are going to store that into our threat intelligence part by giving some flags over there that certain attack is not going to be identifiable, it is a new type of the attack, and that we need to be work upon, right? And after that also we can share this particular information with the other organizations as well, so that the time which will be able to require for other organization to solve that particular threat attack pattern, it will be minimized and our motto is going to be solved, right? So this is our proposed system by which we have finded out some kind of the 5 different alerts which we are by our systems, and we have given here some of the very interesting count over there for all these type of the attack. So these you can say 5 alerts which will be coming, that is from our multiple honeypot structure what I have described you in this our proposed system. So after that, if you see here the country wise count of the attack after using that multiple honeypot in our particular AWS architecture, then we have found out that there are some of the countries where actually the number of times the attack is going to happen is more. And if you see in this particular geographical location where exactly how much is the attack pattern is going to be, we have find it out, right? And after that, one more functionality that we have given, for example, if the attack is going to be happen from the different countries, for example Russia, China and all, right? Because obviously they are going to use their own native language in order to do the attack patterns and all that things, right? So how we are going to able to crack that particular thing, right? So we needs to be convert that particular whatever the text or whatever the you can say the semantic they are going to be used, right? We need to convert it into some readable format. And here if you see our system is going to be defined, whatever the language is going to be there in that attack pattern, we are going to convert it into some readable format into some English, right? And after that it will be going to be saved into our threat intelligence part, right? So that it will be very easy for anyone in the world can defend any kind of the attack whichever is your language. So language is not the barrier over here in the cyber defense part also. So that is nothing but the major contribution from our research and our results you can see over here. So let us conclude with the paper that we have proposed a system to effectively detect and respond to the threat as quickly as possible. Our aim is to speed up the information gathering about the threat as far as possible to achieve the help of various open source tools and via translation engine. We are going to convert it into a different languages, right? So we have a certain you can say that the one solution over this particular cyber system where we are going to be able to detect the new attack patterns, the attack patterns which are known to us, which are unknown to us, and as well as we are going to convert it into some readable format so that anyone can easily use that particular functionality in order to attack in order to defend that. And these are the, some kind of the references by my side, right? So thank you. Any questions? It's welcome. Yeah. Yes, so it is mine paper itself. So I just share my screen again. Yeah. Yeah, the screen is visible, sir. Yeah. So yeah. So good afternoon, good evening, everyone and all over here. So the paper terms is secrets of mind map in the education, right? So let us go with the flow. So abstract introduction, then literature review. Then we are going to find out how to draw the mind maps and what are the different merits of this mind map by using into the education field, and what are the different applications that we can be able to use this mind map is a beautiful technique in our education part. And we have some results over here in terms of the education. If we are going to use this, how it will be helpful for us. And after that, we are going towards the conclusion and the references. So let us start with the abstract part. So if you see any kind of the research which offers fundamentals of the mind map, because how you are going to be contribute to the area of the education, its features, its uses in our teaching profession, right? So mind map is what? Then mind map is nothing but some diagrammatic representation of specific subject that aids in a more through analyze than your typical writing style, right? So instead of writing so much of the text, right, what you can do, you can represent that particular text into diagrammatic format or diagrammatic representation, right? So that is nothing but your mind map specifically, right? So there are the certain process and the features that we are going to see. So student might spend less time actually going through the stack of books during the exam because of the mind map of the same subject is accessible for them to review during the examination. So instead of you can say reading the too much multiple books and all that things, right? So you can have some one concept, and regarding that concept you can draw some kind of the mind map, and it will be easy for you in order to remember that, easy to use and easy to write it down with respect to that particular topic. So it is how this mind map is you can draw and get benefited from that. So there are the various types of the architecture over there, so that we are going to see with by analyzing it. So introduction. So this concept that mind map is going to be given by the Tony Buzan in the BBC series over here. So the mind map, which enables students to recognize the internal and external relationship between the concepts, reflecting the type of the thinking that occurs in the real world situation. So here, mind map which going to be enable students to compare and contrast the information with one each other another, and obviously it will be helping to express theoretical concept in a diagrammatic manner. So it will be very enjoying thing by the students as well, and it will be helpful for them to recall or identify any certain topics which are hard to remember, right? So that can be benefited from this mind map to the students. Then the core concept is to place the idea at the center, and the associated idea is going to be arranged. We are going to arrange around it. So I have, I just show you first of all the how it is going to be drawn, right? For example, if you see here, the core concept or the main idea I have drawn over here in the centrally, right? And then the we are going to use some kind of the associated concept that are related to this particular core concepts or the main idea, that again we are going to draw from as a branch of this particular main idea over here, right? So if you see here, I have the 3 sub branches which will be came up from this particular main idea. And after that, these associated concepts, I have again this sub concept that are again bifurcation I have done into this particular associated concept, right? So like this, each and every concept we can draw this particular mind map so that we can give a depth representation of that particular topic, and it will be easy for student also to understand and to recall whenever there is a requirement, right? So here some in the literature review also done, some of the authors have done beautiful study for this particular mind map into their different parts of for example here this Ramiz Haid is used this in the software engineering field. This Zoran Bill is used for the modeling and the research for the paper. Then this is Rema is used for the essay for the freshman student to improve their writing abilities, and obviously it will be going to use over there. Then this again Joram bill is used to discuss that how or we are going to organize this particular information, how we are going to analyze from that particular mind map and all. So obviously some of the authors also use that particular tool as a research tool in their field. So here the Barbro is used that in your mathematical education, right? So depending upon how your field is, right, you can use that particular mind map because it is an universal, you can say that the topic that anyone can use for their own purposes, right? So how exactly we are going to use or we are going to draw that mind map? So certain steps over there. So you need to take the some one big sheet, you can paste that horizontally so that the all substantial you can mind map you can be easily created. Then create the center point that I have told you that the center point is nothing but here the core concepts of the main ideas that you wanted for that particular subject. Then outward from that main picture, draw at least 4 thick branches. So whatever the branches that are associated with this particular main concept that you need to draw first. Then list the subtopic that corresponding to the primary picture and the topic you are mapping along with these branches. That means if you have that associated concept, so whatever the sub concept you have, you need to draw it according to that particular associated concepts. Then next to create more branches by splitting up the current ones, write words on these new branches. So whatever the, if you see here, I have written out some kind of the words, associated concept, sub-concept, main area, right? So with respect to your subject, your area, you can draw it easily. To continue to expand the mind map outward from the sub branches and iterate the procedure until you have covered all the relevant topics. That means you can again go in the depth of each of these associated concepts, each of these sub concepts as well. So according to your subject, your topic, you can go into the depth so that it will be create a huge mind map. If it will be occurred all the topics within that particular thing, right? So what are the advantage of using this particular mind map? So it will be stimulates the imagination, right? Obviously if you remember, you can easily recall, and you can, by using imagination power, you can easily use that particular thing, right? They help us to retain the information more easily, give us comprehensive view of all the available data. The theoretical portion is transformed into the picture or a diagrammatic manner, and we know that whatever the in a visualized format, right, we are able to remember that very quickly, right? So obviously this mind map is going to be helpful in that particular manner. So makes learning entertaining, and it will be also saving us our time. So that is also the one of the, you can say, that advantage of this mind map. So where exactly the application of these mind maps we can use in our education part, right? So here the first thing is preparation of the lecture notes. So because it will be gives you and the overview of your entire subject, right? So both the instructor and the students, mind map is the one of the most effective tool for the creating the lecture notes. So for any kind of the topic, you can create the mind map and it can be used as notes. Then the daily planning, obviously for instructor, we can use a daily planning of our lectures, right? Or what, how we are going to schedule our lecture at the beginning, what we need to cover at the end, what we need to cover, what exactly the material we need to be used for that particular session. For that also, we can create some kind of the mind map over here. Then for the examination, for taking examination also, we can create some kind of the mind map so that in vivas or something that students can recall it very easily, right? Then for presentation and the lesson, so instead of creating the diagrams and all, on the whiteboard and all, right? So what you can do, you can just draw some kind of the mind map for that particular subject, and you can explain that particular thing with the help of the mind map over there. Then the projects, you may use that particular for your research phase of your project also, so that it can be organized and integrate your thoughts, your find sources for information, and and etc. Right? So that can be used also in your projects part. So here I have used the mind map for one of the subjects called as data mining and business intelligence, where all these subject is going to be some major branches, that what is exactly the definition, then what exactly the knowledge discovery from the data, what are the data mining tasks over here, what are the data mining functionality over here, right? And again, it will be goes into some branches, right? Like outlier analysis is one of the functionality, cluster analysis we can do, classification, discrimination, descriptive, right? So these are the some kind of the functionality which data mining is going to provide us, right? Then again, if you see here the data mining task, from that we have two parts: predictive, descriptive. In predictive, what happened; in descriptive, what happened, right? So that you can again goes into each and every subtopics into the depth, right? So depending upon the subject, depending upon the depth, depending upon your knowledge, your information, you can create the depth mind map over there, and it will be obviously help you for the both instructor as well as for the students, right? So here we ended to do our conclusion. So we might refer to mind map as a smart instrument or as a smart method for teaching, learning, and truly to comprehensive any idea. So student and instructor who are confident in a subject will find it simpler to learn it by utilizing the mind map. And in the modern world, using a mind map for any task will be benefits not only for the students and the instructor, but also the researchers, you, me, and the entire society. So it is a really beautiful tool which we can be used in our education part, so that the instructors as well as the students can be beneficial for it, from it, right? So these are the some kind of the references that we have used for our this mind map process. So thank you. If you have any questions, welcome. Yeah.
Eight
885. Sir, 885. हाँ सर मेरा टेक्निकल इशू हो गया था सर
Sir, 8
no sir actually I'm not able to present because my mic was not working, so can I?
Hello.
No sir. No
Hello,
sir.
sir.
8
878 sir.
Myself
878.
886 ma'am.
823 is available, sir.
Hello. Hello. हाँ sir, 878 is pending. Hello sir, 878 is pending.
Yes sir. Sir, 885 available.
878 sir.
886 ma'am.
878.
86. Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
Yes. Hello. Yes sir, 878 sir. Hello.
Hello, is it audible, sir? Yes, sir. It is available. Sir,
Hello. Yes, sir.
Sir, 823 is also available, sir.
Sir, my screen is visible. Sir, is my screen? Sir, 885. Sir, visible. Okay, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanu. I'm a student of MTech in GB Pant University of Agriculture and Technology. So my topic of presentation is comparative analysis of single-phase DVR with Adeline LMS and variable fractional power LMS control algorithms. So these are the following contents that I am going to cover: introduction, system configuration, control of algorithm, Adeline LMS, variable fractional power LMS, then result and discussion, conclusion, and references. So introduction. In the present scenario, poor power quality has become a major problem for industries and other end users due to the intricacy of power system. Voltage sags, swells, and harmonics are the main issues with the power quality. So custom power devices are introduced and they are connected closer to the load end to solve these issues. The dynamic voltage restorer is one of the custom power devices, and a series connected is very efficient and effective device in power distribution network. Most of the end users are single-phase users, and a three-phase system can always be developed by connecting three single-phase units together, because of which single-phase DVR configuration has recently gained a great interest. Nowadays, control based on adaptive filters are gaining more interest and work efficiently as compared to controls based on active filter techniques. So, system configuration. So as shown in figure 1, TVR consists of a two-leg voltage source inverter that uses 4 insulated gate bipolar transistor switches to provide power to the connecting load. In this configuration, a capacitor is used as energy storage unit connected to the voltage source inverter, which provide reactive power only. Therefore, energy minimized technique is utilized by the DVR. An injection transformer is connect the DVR in series between the source and the load. A ripple filter, RF and CF, attached across the injection transformer's primary winding is used to remove the harmonics caused by the voltage source inverter of DVR. The current harmonic generated by the voltage source inverter have been eliminated by using interfacing inductors, LF. The suggested DVR controller has the ability to keep the load voltage at its rated value. So table 1 shows the system parameter of the dynamic voltage restorer. Now control algorithm. In this paper, Adeline LMS and variable fractional power LMS control algorithm for two-leg VSI-based dynamic voltage restorer on single-phase distribution system are implemented under voltage sag, swell, and harmonic scenario. The control algorithms consist of 4 sections that are estimation of weighted value, voltage regulation across the DC capacitor, reference load voltage generation, and generation of switching pulses for two-leg voltage source inverter of the DVR using sinusoidal pulse width modulation. So first one is Adeline-based LMS. In Adeline-based LMS, the process for determining the weight of the point of common coupling PCC voltage component follows the in-phase unit template of the load current to maintain a minimal inaccuracy. So the peak value of current, that is IM, is used to estimate of used in the estimation of unit template in phase with the system current UP and unit template in quadrature with the load current UQ. So figure 2 shows the Adeline LMS control algorithm. So these are the equations used to determine the various control parameter for the Adeline LMS algorithm. Now coming to variable fractional power algorithm. The essential feature of variable fractional power least mean square approach is the reduced steady state error with a higher convergence rate. Since the variable fractional power LMS based control algorithm can estimate the fundamental component of the non-ideal input signal, this control is implemented for reference voltage generation in TVR. So these are the following equations used to determine the various control parameter for variable fractional power LMS. So figure 3 shows the variable fractional power LMS control algorithm block diagram. So result and discussion. MATLAB simulation result of the single phase TVR with both the control techniques are demonstrated to compare the work. The performance of single phase dynamic voltage restorer is evaluated under various dynamic conditions of supply voltage such as sag, swell, and harmonic distortion. So in case 1, 20% sag is introduced in the supply voltage during time interval 2.5 second to 2.6 second for 5 cycles of supply voltage. Then from 2.9 second to 3 second time interval, a 20% swell is introduced in the supply voltage as shown in figure 4 and 5. So figure 4 shows the performance of Adeline LMS control for sag and swell condition, and figure 5 shows the performance of variable